It all starts on a hectic night at the military camp, with soldiers buzzing around the campfires, gearing up for whatever is about to go down. Inside one of the tents, a warrior isolates himself in the dark, totally zoned in on his weapon. He carefully cleans his sword's blade, treating that steel as the ultimate proof of his loyalty. The weapon's gleam reflects his oath to Lord Atlas, since his entire existence boils down to wielding that. The MC Zeno shows off an unshakable drive with his dead-set glare. Suddenly, a deep voice calls his name from outside the tent, shattering the silence. Someone steps into the dark room looking like an absolute boss. It is Lord Atlas in his heavy armor, making Zeno drop to one knee instantly out of pure respect. The commander announces that the troops will push forward at dawn, and orders the kid to lead the vanguard to smash through enemy lines. The mission is to bring back the defeated enemy leader to secure all the glory for the Arclight family. Totally submissive to his lord, the warrior listens to the harsh order that he absolutely cannot fail under any circumstances. With that, he looks up, his eyes loaded with pure devotion for his master. Right then, the youngster flashes back to a snowy day when the Lord took him in when he had literally no one else in the world. Back when he was just a starving kid eating scraps off the ground, he found a real reason to keep pushing forward through Atlas. That rough memory carved a debt deep into his soul, when he fully intends to pay back by putting his own life on the line. The image of the Lord is burned into his brain as the sole owner of his fate and his choices. The guy closes his eyes and takes on this heavy burden without a single second of hesitation. Standing tall, he agrees to his master's order and gets completely hyped for combat. Atlas turns his back and walks out of the tent without a second glance, trusting the mission is in the bag. Meanwhile, the warrior channels a massive aura of energy into his blade for the upcoming brawl. Out on the battlefield, Zeno sweeps through like a literal hurricane, dishing out lightning-fast and devastating strikes everywhere. His sword speed is so insane it whips up tornadoes in the air, wiping out entire rows of enemies. Catching his breath after the first massive clash, he stands tall right in the middle of his defeated foes. But a huge rumble on the ground signals the enemy cavalry charging full speed right at him. He spots the movement from the corner of his eye without sweating it one bit. All alone in the open field, the MC gears up to clash head-on with a massive wave of knights. The enemy leader shows up on the front lines flexing a twisted grin, totally sure he has this in the bag. At that moment, the young guy thinks about everything he had to sacrifice over the years to build up the Arclight house's power. Even though he is super banged up and feeling the heavy toll of the previous fights, he refuses to back up a single inch. His iron will keep him swinging, acting like a weapon forged by grinding down his own soul. Pooling every last drop of his remaining energy into one single spot on his sword, he braces for impact. The kid then unleashes his ultimate technique, built purely on speed and raw destruction. With one flawless move, the attack rips through the air and hits the cavalry head-on, carving a clear path through the battlefield. The impact of the move is so wild it sends a bunch of enemies packing all at once. Watching the whole thing from a distance, Atlas's soldiers throw shade at the young guy's monstrous fighting style, mocking how he does not even belong to their bloodline. Taking a massive toll on his physical limits, the warrior is hurting bad from completely draining his power. He drops to his knees, totally wiped out, while the allied troops refuse to lend a hand and even trash-talk him for his humble roots. With his vision getting blurry, the MC tries his hardest to stay on high alert. Feeling absolutely terrible, he spots a brand new wave of movement heading straight for him. To his absolute despair, a second wave of enemy knights pops up on the horizon. The guy instantly realizes things just went from bad to extremely dangerous. Gripping his sword hilt, he calculates that his physical limits will only let him fire off his special technique exactly one more time. His exhaustion is super obvious, as he sizes up the nearly impossible challenge staring him down. From a high vantage point, Lord Atlas watches his servant struggle with absolute ice-cold indifference. Despite being left in the dust and facing extreme danger, Zeno takes the gamble, ready to give up whatever is left of his time. Scraping together his very last ounce of strength, the warrior charges forward, repeating his oath of absolute obedience. He rushes the entire army, fully believing that putting his life on the line is a fair trade for loyalty. The commander tracks every single step his servant takes with a super calculated glance. Right then, the MC unleashes a massive spinning attack, sweeping away the bad guys in the name of his lord. Seeing that energy burn up, Atlas mutters with satisfaction, confirming his suspicions about the kid were right on the money. The general notices a mysterious golden light starting to spill out of the young fighter's body. Wasting zero time, the master gives the signal for his masked goons to make a move before his tool goes rogue. The execution order drops, and the henchmen slide in for a super sneaky ambush. Out of nowhere, shadowy spells blast the guy by surprise, locking his body in a paralyzing trap. Totally shocked to recognize the containment array, he questions the reason behind this crazy sudden betrayal. Dark energy starts eating away at the warrior's vision, blocking any chance to fight back. Taking advantage of the opening, one of the masked dudes lands a cheap shot right on the defenseless fighter. The lockdown spell dishes out some serious pain, torturing the young guy relentlessly while he struggles to break free. One of the allied soldiers raises a heavy weapon, totally roasting the kid's pathetic situation. Furious, the dude swings an axe down on the MC, calling him a total monster. The hit lands clean on the warrior's weakened body, slamming him into the dirt with a ton of force. Finding the whole thing hilarious, the attacker mentions he is just following orders and tells the kid to blame his own master for this mess. Beaten up bad on the ground, the guy cannot wrap his head around how the man he idolized so much could set up this backstab. Heavy metallic footsteps slowly close in on the body lying in the dirt. Struggling big time, the MC forces his eyes open to see exactly who just walked up to him. The boss-level figure of the commander looms over him like an actual executioner, judging his. Looking down with zero emotion, the Lord drops his servant's name. The kid's eyes are overflowing with shock, desperately searching for any excuse for this insane cheap shot. But those hopes fade away when the master flat-out tells him his usefulness expired right then and there. Trying to deny the harsh truth, the kid stammers the Lord's name, practically begging for something that makes sense. He reaches out a shaking hand toward the guy he always looked at as a legit father figure. Cutting the emotional cord instantly, the noble tells the orphan to stop tripping on fake feelings. The patriarch states with unbelievable disrespect that he never once looked at a street rat like him as a son. That brutal reality check rips even more pain out of the rejected kid, completely shattering his whole reason for living. Turning his back on his wounded subordinate, Atlas spills the tea. On that snowy day, he only saved the kid because he saw something useful and easy to manipulate in those lifeless eyes. The Lord throws shade at his fallen servant's worth. Staring the kid down coldly, the commander states he would make a top-tier tool. To lock that in, all he had to do was hand the guy a reason to live and harvest blind loyalty in return. The master just saw that life as a handy sword, totally ready to be tossed in the trash when done. With that said, the noble admits the warrior actually turned out to be a little too good of a gear. Remembering the totally unnatural spiritual energy the boy showed since he was little, the Lord reveals his master plan. He admits to doing absolutely everything in his power over the years to keep it under wraps. The main goal was to keep that crazy huge power locked down until this exact moment. However, the commander noticed that the containment limit had finally hit a breaking point. Admitting that the bright light from earlier was the final proof of this overflowing power, the patriarch decided to strike before getting betrayed himself. Banged up pretty badly, the MC tries to defend himself, swearing he would never plot against his master. Showing zero mercy, a savage strike lands on the defenseless kid, shutting him up the hard way. Annoyed by the noise, Atlas announces he's going to drop one last secret about what the kid's name actually means inside that house. The Lord shatters the kid's heart, dropping the bomb that the word Xeno literally just means disposable sword. Hearing that, the guys around them burst out laughing, totally humiliating the betrayed fighter who finally sees what a massive illusion his life was. While the commander turns his back to walk away, the guy just stays dumped on the ground. Scraping together his absolute last bits of strength, the warrior tries to lift his head even though it hurts like crazy. He mumbles to himself about the life he lived and the blade he entirely dedicated to that man. The noble hears the complaining, but does not show a single drop of empathy for his former subordinate's mess. Feeling the heavy weight of the backstab, the young guy grips the dirt with a shaking hand, trying to find some leverage. Suddenly, the guards back up spooked when they notice some wild, unexpected movement coming from the fallen body. Hyped up by an intense aura, the MC grips his busted weapon and tries to pop off one final technique. The kid's eyes are practically flooding, with a mix of rage and pure desperation over everything that was stolen from him. But the spark in his eyes fades out super fast the second his energy completely flatlines. His weakened body finally gives out, and he collapses totally frozen on the dirt floor. Relieved, one of the soldiers starts cracking up, admitting the warrior's reaction gave him a massive jump scare. Raising his weapon for the finishing move, the dude mocks the whole vibe while the kid regrets his sad reality. The young guy bitterly realizes his only purpose in life was always to be just some easy-to-use prop. The whole squad watches the scene with zero respect, just waiting for him to vanish for good now that his use is up. In his absolute last second of consciousness, the warrior asks himself why he sacrificed so much all these years. Waking up in a super cozy, brightly lit room, the MC wonders if he crossed over to the other side, right as he recognizes the crest of the absolute strongest mage family on the continent. A gentle female voice notices he is awake and strokes his blanket with total affection. An elegant woman looks down with pure love, calling him her sweet little baby. Completely shook, the guy is baffled realizing what he just got called. Total confusion takes over his brain as he tries to process this insane reality glitch. He holds up his own tiny hands, completely frozen by the wild situation. Sitting in a fancy crib, the little guy internally panics, trying to figure out what on earth is happening to his body. The irony is off the charts, since the magical Elminster family is the historical rival of the Arclight house that obsessed over sword fighting. Legends say the founder of this mage bloodline was so overpowered, he managed to create a whole continent using just one chant. On top of that, this legendary dude had spiritual energy so vast it could rival the glow of the sun itself. Snuggled up in the woman's arms, the young guy finds it hilarious that he dedicated his entire life to the blade, only to end up respawning right into the enemy family. Curious about his new setup, he zones in and soon a pulsing aura starts glowing in his hands. A wave of confidence hits him as he recognizes how familiar that overflowing power feels. That cozy vibe rushes through his whole being, proving his theories about his own nature were spot on. He realizes with total awe that he finally got back the massive spiritual energy he was denied and locked away from his entire past life. Catching a dark vibe, the MC figures the universe did not completely leave him hanging after all. Having the perfect setup, an insane bloodline, and unlimited energy, he promises to game the system and use every resource to his advantage. The main goal now is to make Lord Atlas pay up big time for all the shady stuff he pulled. But to actually pull off this payback, step 1 is mastering absolute control over his new family's power. To keep a low profile and stay comfy, the kid instantly slaps on the ultimate innocent baby act. In the palace's super fancy hall, a whole squad of maids and chefs bends over backward to keep both of them happy in every way possible. The head chef runs up super hyped, offering a special drink whipped up exclusively for the young lord. This premium meal was made using incredibly rare sap tapped straight from the gigantic world tree. Soaking up the VIP treatment, the little guy sips the drink through a straw while processing the ridiculous amount of privilege he has. Right after that, a maid hands over a glowing rattle, revealing the whole crew stayed up all night charging the thing with spiritual energy. The staff treats the magic toy like it is some legit divine relic crafted just to keep the baby entertained. Watching this total overkill, the kid reacts with an internal facepalm at how wildly the staff is glazing him. But remembering he is undercover, he pulls his blanket over his face and lets out a little giggle, pretending to be shy from all the attention. Finding it cute, his mom tells the team to chill out before they end up scaring the little guy. Hugging her son super tight, she calls him by the name Lucius, locking in his brand new identity in this world. Even with all this VIP care, the MC keeps his cool, reminding himself not to get played by appearances. After all, his past scars are a 24/7 reminder that a worthless orphan does not get free. He figures this massive show of affection is strictly tied to his insane potential for magic. Thanks to that brutal backstab he went through, the guy learned his lesson the hard way and refuses to get his hopes up with emotional attachments. While the maids throw a party over him just wiggling in his crib, the kid promises himself he is going to milk this whole setup just to get his revenge. One whole week rolls by in the massive castle since he reincarnated. Hanging around the palace these past few days, the little guy managed to grasp one undeniable fact. This family's magic capacity and training methods completely eclipse anything he ever imagined in his past life. Even prepping a basic baby bottle involves rituals that pack a colossal amount of power into the drink. Aside from the premium food, the whole vibe is designed to constantly level up the kid through tiny, everyday details. Even the lullabies the maids sing hide complex magic spell rules perfectly baked into the tunes. As soon as the staff hits the lights and dips, the kid is finally left alone in his pitch-black room. Sitting in the crib, he sighs, admitting it is still super exhausting to keep up the baby act 24/7. Taking advantage of the midnight quiet, the MC decides it is finally time to test drive his new skill set. Pulling the aura into his fingertips, he gears up to pop an old-school technique focused on condensing all his power into one single point. Just like he used to do with his sword back in the day, the little guy tries to mimic the exact same compression trick. He swears he is gonna bring every single drop of his current spiritual energy under flawless control to test his limits. The kid focuses all his life force, dropping some intense energy into the dark room. Suddenly, a massive pillar of magic force blasts upward, completely shattering the peace and quiet of the night. The blue flash is so wild it punches right through the castle roof without breaking a sweat, lighting up the entire estate. Down in the kitchen, the staff drops everything they are doing, totally freaked out by the sudden earthquake shaking the walls. Panicking over the loud crash in the building, the kid's mom sprints down the hallways in her nightgown with a maid right on her heels. The energy explosion hangs over the property like a literal shining star, brightening up the early morning hours. Back in the crib, Lucius is amazed seeing how much his power leveled up in just 1 week, figuring that if he can manage this, he will be unstoppable. The game plan now is to lock in on completely mastering this brand new skill to keep scaling up. Right then, the bedroom door gets kicked wide open by the super panicked woman. Panting hard and calling out for her son, she warns him about the crazy loud noise that just rocked the palace. But to the shock of both women, the heir's room is completely dead silent. Seeing the baby peacefully closing his eyes, the matriarch and the maid wonder if the whole earthquake was just in their heads. Relieved, the mom smiles, wondering what kind of dream the little guy is having, totally clueless that he is just faking sleep. The next day, Lady Elminster is chilling with the baby in her lap near the bright palace window. This peaceful moment gets wrecked when her trusted maid busts the door open, calling for her boss in a total panic. Completely freaking out, the maid tries to drop some awful news, but the noble tells her to take a breath first. Confused by the sudden chaos, the woman politely asks what is going down outside. The staff member spills that a royal guard delegation just pulled up to the gates, escorting a high-level inspector straight from the imperial family. Shook by the title, the lady of the house tries to figure out why a top-tier inspector is paying them a visit. She finds it super sketchy that the authorities would pull up to such an isolated turf with zero warning, especially with the head of the family out of town. Sitting on his mom's lap, the MC quickly puts two and two together. They picked up on his energy blast from last night and things just got messy. A little bit later, the whole crew gathers in the castle's grand main hall to welcome the royal VIPs. Flexing an elegant posture, the matriarch waits seated in her noble chair, holding the baby tight in her lap. The giant doors swing open, revealing hooded figures walking in and dropping a highly intimidating vibe. The noble watches the newcomers, keeping up a dignified front worthy of her strong magic bloodline. The visitors stomp through the hall, creating a seriously tense atmosphere in the room. Mother and son track the men getting closer without showing a single ounce of weakness. Stopping right in front of the family, the squad leader addresses the lady of the house super directly. The royal officer says they can skip the small talk, revealing he is holding an immediate imperial decree. The guy explains that last night, the Empire's spiritual surveillance grid picked up something completely insane in that exact area. An unprecedented surge went off right on their turfan anomaly, on a scale that only pops up once every 1,000 years. Pointing his finger aggressively, the hooded guy claims the source of this colossal power is hiding somewhere on this property. The straight-up accusation makes the room feel super heavy, catching all the staff and security totally off guard. The maids start whispering to each other, totally clueless about where this mythical energy could have even come from. Ignoring everyone's shock, the royal envoy keeps explaining they are going to run a scan to see if the source is a threat to the empire. Dropping a threatening tone, he warns that following strict laws, they will trigger a total wipeout of the location if they have to. Hearing that dangerous word, the castle crew hits panic mode, fearing the absolute worst-case scenario. The guy wraps up his speech, claiming that is their undeniable duty to the emperor. As official inspectors, he reveals a super complex magical compass resting right in the palm of his hand. Holding the gadget, the leader swears the origin of all that freakish power is 100% inside this main hall. The object starts spinning and glowing slightly as its parts calibrate to the room around them. Real quick, the gear's light flares up, hunting for the exact target that shot out the aura pillar. Without warning, the sphere fires a yellow laser beam cutting across the room, tracking down the energy. The golden light points directly at the noble sitting in her chair, instantly grabbing the inspector's attention. Using a bossy tone, he tells the matriarch to step forward so they can start the deep scan. Keeping the chill vibe of someone in her position, she agrees to the royal request without putting up a fight. She hands the baby over to her trusted maid, asking her to watch him closely while she handles this diplomatic mess. Asking for some space, the woman walks to the center of the hall all by herself to face the gadget head-on. The artifact's bright glow totally lights up Lady Elminster's figure during the magic scan. But looking at the sphere's negative reading, the hooded guy instantly figures out the lady of the house is not the source. Super frustrated that his machine messed up, the dude squints, wondering where on earth that power is coming from. Then the magic gear suddenly starts violently pulsing right in the investigator's hands. The pressure is so massive the object shakes out of control, almost slipping right through the officer's fingers. The spiritual compass wildly changes direction and blasts a colossal beam straight at the maid holding the noob. The golden light totally swallows the corner of the hall where the two of them are chilling. The shock of this reveal makes the leader jump back, throwing up his hands in total disbelief. Sweating bullets and totally losing his logical cool, he tries to process the impossible reading from the device. Making the tension worse, the unbreakable tool starts cracking and popping loudly from the massive overload of energy it just picked up. Unable to handle the measured power level, the sphere violently explodes into a blinding shockwave right in the officer's hand. While magic shards go flying everywhere, the little MC just watches the panic without batting an eye in the maid's lap. Shaking with fear, the hooded guy stutters, sweating cold, asking if that monstrous source could actually be that thing. The stunned eyes of literally everyone in the hall instinctively lock onto the protected kid in the corner. With a sense of pure dread, the inspector realizes that harmless baby is the root of the Millennium anomaly. He raises his voice in total outrage, claiming a situation like this breaks every single rule of the Empire's magic logic. Completely lost, the man wonders how a heavy-duty gadget got shredded just by the natural spiritual pressure the kid was giving off. From the other side of the room, Lucius stares down the Imperial intruder with the mature look of someone totally in control. Taking on the extreme risk of the mission, the envoy pulls back his hood, showing his face, and decides to link his own soul to the boy's. With open hands, the mage drops a summoning circle on the floor to try and peek at the true nature of that creature. The second the mental link clicks, a violent spiritual backlash throws the guy backward, almost knocking him flat. The spell hits right back, leaving the inspector panicking as he tries to wrap his head around what kind of abyss he just tapped into. Deep vision reveals the kid's true untamed essence glowing in the shadows of his subconscious. The officer suffers big time as his mind gets overloaded, claiming the volume is so grotesque he cannot even touch the soul's core. Swallowed by that infinite scale, the royal mage terrifyingly concludes that staring at the boy is exactly like staring straight into the sun. Completely terrified, the inspector stares at the baby's soul, sweating cold as he notices a monstrous dark energy burning totally out of control. Catching the heavy vibe in the room, one of the goons instantly asks what the boss just saw. The matriarch and the maid wait for the answer in an atmosphere of pure anxiety. The officer tries to keep his cool while weighing his massive duty to the Empire. He then remembers an ancient prophecy documented in a single book from the absolute beginning of that nation. This cursed text predicts the arrival of the biggest disaster the Empire has ever faced. The legend claims that whoever houses an abyssal curse inside a sacred soul will end up sinking the entire territory into darkness. Locking eyes with the kid in the maid's arms, the guy realizes what he just saw matches every single word of the prophecy perfectly. At that, the maid goes into shock, hugging the little guy tight while the mom completely freezes up. Flexing the authority of the imperial crown, the mage declares the curse on the boy's soul is the literal spark of their ruin. He steps forward, swearing he is going to put an end to this problem right there before things get any worse. The two women are absolutely terrified in the dark, facing that direct threat. However, little Lucius drops a heavy, threatening glare, fully aware of the danger. The guards surround the maid, fully prepped to jump the newborn at any second. One of the guys already pulls his sword from its sheath, ready to execute the ruthless order. Suddenly, the matriarch's delicate hands clasp together in a polite request for them to hold on a minute. The lead inspector stops his push when he notices a strong pink energy starting to take over the hall. Wrapped in a gigantic magical aura, Celestia firmly warns that she will not let them lay a single finger on the kid. Annoyed by her nerve, the officer asks if the noble really plans on defying the Empire's laws. Walking right up to the guards, she claims that a single tear from her son holds way more weight than any rule in the country. The woman keeps her head high, doubling down that this is what being a real mother actually means. Surprised, the baby looks at the noble, processing that absolute defense. The mage asks in a dark tone if she is really ready to handle the fallout of this treason. As an answer, a hurricane of spiritual power explodes between them, whipping up a crazy windstorm inside the palace. Neither side backs down as they stare each other down with cutting intensity. Shocking everyone, the officer drops the magic in his hands, throwing in the towel on the fight. The subordinates look at their boss, completely confused by this sudden switch. Weapon drawn, one of the soldiers angrily asks if the boss is really going to let the family walk away without a scratch. The leader answers quietly about what imperial law says in cases like this. Tapping the guard's shoulder, he wonders if a doomsday button raised with so much love would actually bloom into a disaster. The mom keeps her magic wings spread wide, blocking the space between the royal squad and her baby. The inspector casually turns around, admitting he made the call to see the results with his own two eyes. He and little Lucius share a deep look, both understanding exactly what is on the line. Speaking directly to the lady of the house, the guy gives props to her impressive grit. The officer gets that the noble has the guts to turn her back on the entire empire just for the sake of that kid. Because of that, the master offers to share this massive burden with the family. Celestia listens closely to the pitch, waiting to hear the catch. He warns that if the boy ever steps off the right path, they will both carry that responsibility together. The guards start backing up toward the exit, while the leader asks if they have a deal. Already pulling open the massive hall doors, the mage drops one last warning for her to never forget this promise. Silence finally takes over the room the second the doors shut behind the royal crew. Right then, the matriarch's rock-solid posture crumbles, giving way to a massive wave of relief. Wasting no time, she sprints across the smooth castle floor, totally relieved. The noble calls out for her son with a choked-up voice and throws herself toward the maid. Holding her own face, the woman cries, thanking the heavens that everything turned out okay. The MC is totally stunned, watching such a genuine reaction from the person who took him in. The mom collapses on the floor, hugging the maid and the baby with everything she has got. Tears keep falling, showing a pure kind of love with zero hidden agenda. She squeezes her son against her chest, tossing all her noble pride out the window. Leaning into the warm hug, the kid gets super deep in thought about this unconditional love he never experienced before. Far away, the subordinate asks if the boss is really sure about the report they are sending to the king. Showing zero doubt, the master tells him to report that they found an exceptional talent who will bring massive perks to the nation down the line. 12 years zoom by since that intense day, revealing a massive magic training. Standing in the center of several power circles, young Lucius grinds his skills, brushing off non-stop attacks. The kid moves super fast, dodging energy beams left and right. Not thrilled with the pace, he demands the machine crank up the difficulty. This risky routine pushes the MC's mind to the absolute limit through extreme stress. Every step close to the edge becomes a must-have for his growth. Using his speed, the young guy lands perfectly on a moving iron pendulum. Facing this crazy level of danger is the only way to polish his monstrous power. The guy keeps his balance totally locked in on the suspended platform in the middle of a magic storm. Wiped out, he sits on the cold metal to catch his breath after the intense session. At that exact moment, Celestia and the red-haired maid walk into the room, calling out for the boy. Super worried, his mom scolds him, asking why he keeps pushing his luck with such a reckless workout. The young master jumps off the platform and lands smooth as butter on the stone floor. Walking towards them, he tries to cool things down, saying he is perfectly fine. The guy argues that he has been doing this exact same hardcore routine every single day for the past 12 years. The matriarch crosses her arms, still stressing over her son's safety. Out of nowhere, the trusted maid totally loses it, glowing with an angry aura. The kid walks up, keeping his usual chill vibe. He tries to lighten the heavy mood by reassuring the crew. Totally unhinged, the staff member snaps, saying that dropping your guard is a fatal mistake, and reminds him she almost lost her life a bunch of times back in her night days because of it. Listening to the frantic lecture, Lucius turns his head a bit, silently reflecting on this past decade. The MC's face goes dark as he remembers his brutal past and the goal he still has to crush. While the woman keeps venting, the young guy agrees in his head, knowing he focused every second of his life on this prep. Taking advantage of a pause, the red-haired maid steps up and hands the young lord some mail. He grabs the fancy envelope sealed with green wax, quickly noticing it as something official. Checking out the document closely, the guy instantly realizes what the invite is all about. A super focused look takes over his face, proving he has been waiting his whole life for this exact moment. The paper calls the receiver to the selection ceremony for the Royal Academy, the spot that pulls in the absolute best talent in the Empire. Tradition says the top graduate from this school scores a divine blessing that breaks any human limit. The most important detail is that Lord Atlas himself was the absolute best student of his generation back in the day. That memory digs up the pain of the brutal backstab the MC took from his old master. Back then, the commander already flexed an insane power level that went way beyond what a normal warrior could even comprehend. The image of the traitor looking down on him totally cold-blooded is still burned into the kid's brain. Fueled by bottled-up rage, Lucius crushes the invite in his hand, knowing he needs that blessing to go head-to-head with his enemy. Mixing the fury from his past life with his current drive, he swears he will take the top spot at that academy. A bit later, the scene shifts to the massive layout of the magic school, locked behind giant walls. Inside, a colossal arena shows off packed stands full of people waiting for the event to drop. In the VIP section, Lucius's mom and the maid watch everything closely to back up the young prodigy. Down in the main courtyard, the candidates walk together toward the center of the Colosseum. Up in the stands, the noble families wait eagerly to see how their heirs will perform. The MC stays totally chill in the middle of the crowd, just taking in the vibe around him. Suddenly, a booming voice echoes through the arena, demanding absolute silence from everyone. From the main stage, the Academy Director officially kicks off this year's selection ceremony. A magic light beam hits the center of the testing grounds, signaling the start of the practical exam. From the floor, a giant crystal lizard pops up, tied down by restraints, giving most of the participants a massive jump scare. Lucius just listens to the rundown that the exam will kick off right after they show off the beast. Keeping a blank face, he mentally breaks down the details of the challenge he is about to face. This year's test is all about checking every young mage's protection and suppression skills. While the monster roars like crazy in its energy cage, the heir to the Hector family watches with a totally arrogant vibe. The challenge is to keep a bunch of magic eggs floating near the candidate completely safe. At the same time, the student has to deal with the crystal beast's aggressive attacks without dropping the items. The judges watch from a distance, ready to score their reaction times under extreme pressure. To grade the results, a golden magic scale pops up floating in the sky, acting as the final ref for the test. The glowing weights on the scale track how well their suppression power handles the threats. Pass or fail comes down to the final balance of those golden plates. After the super long explanation, the candidates are told to head over to the arena's waiting zone. While they walk down the halls, whispers start spreading among the young nobles. One of them points at Lucius, mocking him as the cursed kid from the Elminsters. Sitting super comfortably, Hector mutters that the kid is only breathing thanks to the royal inspectors taking pity on him 12 years ago. Not giving a single care about the toxic gossip, the MC just keeps walking, ignoring the bait. Right after, the first candidate gets called Yupa, red-haired girl from the magnate family. She does not waste a second and blasts a brutal fire spell right at the lizard, trying to turn it to ash. An intense explosion lights up the battlefield, flexing the young noble's raw power. The flames violently swallow the creature, wrecking the test arena. The scale shows a high score for attack, but total trash for defense, giving her a bare minimum pass. Annoyed by her own sloppy move, the girl clicks her tongue, realizing most of the eggs got cooked in the process. The next students step up, facing off against the magic beast's dark and aggressive blasts. The golden scale keeps popping up every turn, ruthlessly grading the rookie's hustle. A few more candidates manage to scrape together enough points to barely pass the exam. They show off a bunch of magic styles, like wind blasts used to push the danger away. Others go all in on defense, throwing up shields around the eggs to keep them safe. Until it is Hector Gilbert's turn, and he strides up oozing pure confidence and ego. Up in the stands, the crowd whispers with hype, calling the guy the ultimate prodigy of the Imperial swordsman. Watching from afar, Lucius finds it weird he has zero memories of this family from his past life. Face to face with the beast, the young noble announces he does not need any boring mage tricks. He proudly claims his bloodline's blade handles things way more directly. With a slick move, the warrior focuses his energy and draws his weapon in the blink of an eye. Giving off pure ice, he declares his style slices the target in absolute silence. The guy drops a crazy fast strike, tearing through the beast before it even knows what hit it. The pressure of the vertical slash is so clean it does not even mess with the air around it, keeping the eggs totally safe. Putting his sword away calmly, he wraps up the test without even breaking a sweat. The golden scale maxes out both plates, locking in a flawless and scary high score. The beast collapses on the ground defeated, while the prodigy stays standing, owning the arena. The board posts sky-high ratings for Hector, shooting him straight to the #1 spot on the leaderboard. The other students are amazed, chatting about how they could not even track the strike because it was so fast. Then it is time for the final candidate, and Lucius casually strolls to the center of the field. The vibe in the crowd flips instantly, with disgusted whispers aimed at the cursed kid. Watching from the top, Hector figures nothing the kid does will ever top his absolute powerhouse performance. The swordsman flashes a smirk, already calling himself the undisputed champ of the event. As soon as the MC gets in position, the crystal beast charges up a devastating area of effect attack. Up in the VIP booth, his mom and the maid tense up, seeing how massive the incoming danger is. Even the red-haired girl from the magnate family watches anxiously from the shadows of the hall. A brutal energy beam gets fired at max power, swallowing the exact spot where the kid is standing. Seeing this insane move, the director wonders how a rookie could even handle an AoE strike of that scale. The inspector replies that usually, you would expect them to fall back and throw up a wide shield to protect the eggs. Right in the middle of the magic explosion, the floating items stay perfectly still around the young guy. Dodging everyone's expectations, Lucius takes the massive hit with a look of extreme boredom. Clueless as to why the target did not drop, the furious monster roars, pushing the destructive magic even harder. Watching the scene up close, the judges are completely mind-blown by what is going down in the arena. In the middle of that destructive storm, Lucius moves with ridiculous ease, dodging everything without breaking a sweat. With an acrobatic flip, the kid dodges the energy beams like he is just taking a walk in the park. The director watches the field from above and mutters to himself that it is straight up unbelievable. Next to him, his colleague is shook, noticing the student is not even chanting spells, just flexing pure spiritual energy with flawless control. The MC's precision is so scary it looks like he can dodge every single drop of rain in a thunderstorm. Through it all, the young prodigy keeps a totally bored face, proving this whole trial is basically child's play. He casually lifts just one finger, gathering a tiny speck of light right at the tip. On the flip side, the raging monster charges up a massive energy ball to drop its ultimate attack. But Lucius dives straight at the danger with his hand out, showing absolutely zero hesitation. With a calm but bossy tone, the kid orders the beast to stop, completely freezing the aggressive magic in midair. Taking advantage of the opening, he makes a tiny hand gesture to totally shut down the target. The invisible power slams the creature into the stone floor, instantly neutralizing the threat. A heavy silence sweeps the whole amphitheater while the lizard just lays there in the dirt, completely dominated. Right then, the golden magic scale drops from the sky with a loud crash to grade the test. In the stands, the noble crowd is absolutely shook, trying to process the flex they just witnessed. The plates on the scale slam down violently, posting a score that literally breaks the machine's limits. Totally overloaded, the golden weights overflow with light, confirming a performance that is straight out of this world. Still in shock, the crowd whispers to each other, thinking a score like that defies all logic. Hector watches from a distance, feeling his blood boil seeing his top spot stolen in such an embarrassing way. Back in the middle of the field, the young lord just stands there, turning his back on the chaos he just caused. The pressure from the score is so massive that the grading tool starts cracking, unable to handle all that stacked up energy. The magic screen flashes a glowing letter up high, locking in a maxed out perfect score in both defense and suppression. After that insane power trip, Lucius is officially named the absolute best rookie of the year. The entire crowd loses its mind, hyping up the new champ's monstrous performance with deafening applause. In the VIP sections, the maid goes wild cheering for the young master, while the matriarch breaks down crying tears of pure pride. Far away, some royal guards watch the crazy results on the academy's big screens. Boiling with rage, the young swordsman grinds his teeth, realizing his prodigy title just got crushed with zero mercy. The MC keeps his eyes cold and locked in, knowing this win is just step one for his real endgame. Soon after, all the passing candidates gather in the grand hall to kick off the awards ceremony. The students line up neatly in the courtyard, paying close attention to the VIPs up front. Stepping up to the podium, the director puts on a super serious vibe to start handing out the top prize. With a quick hand gesture, the guy makes the first place badge float through the air, wrapped in a strong green aura. Kneeling on the floor in a sign of respect, Lucius receives the magic blessing that surrounds his entire body. The guy closes his eyes to soak up that legendary energy, feeling the power rush through his veins super intensely. Once the handoff is done, the master wraps up the event, officially closing out the selection process. The sun shines over the massive castle layout, kicking off a brand new hectic study grind. Then, the freshman students group up near the entrance to check the lists for their dorm room hookups. Meanwhile, the red-haired maid is crying an absolute river over the kid leaving soon. Being super dramatic, she non-stop whines about how much it hurts that she will not get to watch the master grow up every single day. The staff member finally dries her face and drops some last messages, letting him know the whole squad will be cheering for him from afar. Right then, the matriarch steps up with so much love, strokes her son's face, and sighs that it is time to say goodbye. With a look full of pure mom love, she sweetly asks the guy to stay safe and promises she will be praying for him. Hearing the advice, the young guy keeps a straight face, reminding her that there are a lot of heavy hitters competing in that place. But he quickly flashes a comforting smile, agreeing to her request and thanking her for caring so much. The MC finally turns his back and hits the road, asking the maid to take really good care of his mom. Along the way, the kid thinks to himself, satisfied that locking in the #1 spot was a major W. Farther out, some rookies are blown away when they stumble into the super premium VIP dorms handed to the top student. But on the flip side of the campus, the dorms meant for the bottom-tier nobles look like straight-up dark, ancient prison cells. In one of those cramped rooms, Hector's crew is raging about having to share such a trash setup. Sitting in front of a chessboard, the swordsman tells his goons to shut their mouths and stop throwing such a massive fit. He slams a piece on the table with pure rage, arrogantly claiming they can snatch that #1 spot from the mage any day now. The next morning, the vibe in the classroom is super tense, with the rookies gossiping non-stop about the cursed kid. Lucius chills at his desk patiently, totally ignoring the rumors that he cheated using hardcore dark magic. One row over, Hector mocks the whole thing, sarcastically dropping that maybe the new kid is just an actual genius. Triggered by that guess, another student claps back instantly, swearing the whole thing was just a massive scam. Right then, the sound of heavy boots echoes through the room, shutting down the argument on the spot. Curious about the sudden pause, the MC looks up to see what is going on. A hooded, super creepy figure slowly walks into the class, radiating a seriously heavy aura. The guy walks straight to the open window and hops up on the ledge, looking down at the students like they are inmates. The teacher's dark cape flaps in the strong wind while he balances perfectly on the edge of the window. From the back, two rookies whisper, super confused by this guy's weird and dramatic entrance. Young Hector grips his weapon's hilt with anger, claiming that in a real fight he would have attacked without hesitation. Suddenly, the hooded guy teleports right next to the swordsman, demanding he shut down that fighting spirit right now. Caught totally off guard, the rebel student's eyes go wide at the insane speed of that move. Even so, the noble glares at the newcomer with massive ego, claiming he does not take orders from randoms. Leaning back in his chair all relaxed, He sarcastically asks if the master really thought a cheap trick would scare him. Soon, the classmates around them start laughing, accusing the instructor of just wanting to be an attention seeker on day one. Not giving a single care about the disrespect, the teacher keeps half his face hidden in the shadows of his hood. A dark smirk creeps onto the guy's lips, showing he has zero patience for dealing with bratty teenagers. Thinking he runs the show, Hector defies the guy's authority and warns he is only going to repeat himself one last time. As an answer, the educator just snaps his fingers and orders the kid again to drop the attitude. Instantly, a massive gravity wave crushes the entire room, launching the desks away with insane force. Totally pinned to his seat, the swordsman suffers, trying to figure out what kind of ridiculous weight is crushing his body. The whole class freaks out over this brutal flex of power, panicking and realizing the teacher is an absolute monster. Lucius watches, impressed that the professor handled all that ego so easily. Completely paralyzed by the gravity, the swordsman struggles, trying to fight back against the insane pressure. The master then turns off the magic with a snap of his fingers, telling the rebel kid to burn that lesson into his brain. He casually strolls through the room while absolute silence takes over the class. Taking complete control of the room, the guy announces that real life at the academy starts right now. Walking past the terrified students, he declares that bloodlines and last names mean absolutely nothing in here. The girl from the magnate family and the other rookies listen to the rule in shock, feeling the weight of his authority. Standing in front of the class, the instructor doubles down that all those fancy noble titles are completely worthless. Right after that, he pulls down his hood, showing his face with an exhausted sigh. Staring down the whole class, the guy makes it crystal clear that raw strength is the only thing that actually matters in this place. His sharp eyes scan the room, sizing up every single prodigy sitting there. The MC holds eye contact with the professor, keeping a totally chill expression. Happy that he has everyone's attention, the master decides it is time to really get started. Walking up to the chalkboard, he officially introduces himself to the new class as Valerius. The teacher explains he is the guy in charge of teaching core theory at the academy. Right then, Lucius recognizes the boss-level figure of the professor and remembers the past. He realizes the instructor is the exact same royal inspector who showed up at his house 12 years ago. The young lord figures it makes total sense that such an insane level of spiritual energy belongs to someone who reports straight to the empire. Pointing at the class, Valerius announces the very first thing he is going to teach are the rules of this place. He explains that every student's ultimate goal here should be graduating at the absolute top of the class. The master reveals that a giant crystal in the middle of campus ranks every single student in the school. The spots change based on mission results and practical classes, showing exactly how well everyone is doing. Hector listens closely, already plotting how he's going to steal back the #1 spot on the board. Lilia Magnate freaks out seeing her name hovering in the ranks and wonders who on earth is scoring higher than her. The professor keeps explaining that hitting the top means making it into the top 16 to compete in the special tournament held every 4 years. The undisputed champ of that brutal competition gets crowned the absolute best student in the entire academy. Focused on his payback, the MC clenches his fist, knowing the winner bags a priceless divine blessing. One student stands up furious, complaining that holding that spot for 4 years with 0 breaks is pure insanity. The noble girl agrees with her classmates' rage, feeling like the pressure is going to be massive. Instantly, the kid's score drops on the board, and the professor warns that whining also tanks your grade. The master suggests the rookies watch their mouths very carefully from now on. He drops the cold, hard truth that the 125 worst students on the yearly ranking are going to face brutal consequences. No matter the excuse, those students with trash grades will get kicked out of the school, no questions asked. The young swordsman realizes this is the ruthless tactic they use to balance out the rookies and the dropouts. The instructor asks if the class finally gets how hardcore and stressful academy life is going to be. Charging up a spell in the palm of his hand, he officially kicks off the first practical class. A massive teleportation spell swallows the whole classroom in the blink of an eye, catching the rookies totally off guard. While getting sucked into the magic, Hector mutters in shock about the professor's ridiculous power level. The entire class touches down in a dark, outdoor area of the campus covered in heavy fog. The MC checks out the new spot with curiosity, while the girl next to him is still trying to figure out what just happened. A giant bridge made of green blocks stretches out over a massive bottomless pit right in front of them. Standing on the edge of the setup, Valerius repeats that this is their real first lesson. He explains that passing this test is actually super simple. Casually strolling onto the floating platform, the guy orders them to cross to the other side within exactly 1 month. Feeling cocky, one of the guys laughs, thinking crossing the bridge is going to be a piece of cake. 2 students rush to be the first ones to beat the challenge and sprint ahead of everyone else. Catching a bad vibe, the swordsman throws his arm out, stopping his goons from blindly rushing in. The impatient rookie steps onto the structure, hyping up his supposedly easy one. The second the kid's boot touches the green surface, the bridge's magic triggers instantly. A brutal energy grabs the student's body, ripping out his entire life force all at once. Panicking and losing all his strength, he stumbles backwards while his buddy screams at him to stop. The professor drops a cold warning telling them not to be reckless unless they want to meet the exact same tragic end. Totally drained, the boy falls into the empty void, vanishing into the darkness while everyone watches. The noble girl hits panic mode, asking what the heck is at the bottom of that creepy hole. Sizing up the situation, Lucius quickly figures out the bridge material literally drains the spiritual power of anyone trying to cross. Finding the challenge kind of funny, the young prodigy realizes the test is way simpler than it looks. Further down the bridge, the instructor repeats that power is everything and tells them to get the required energy in 30 days. Shaking with fear after watching the accident, a student stutters, asking what the success rate for this class was in past years. Valerius slowly turns his head, thinking about the stats from older classes. Showing zero empathy, he guesses that usually only 20% of the rookies make it across. But the master takes a dramatic pause and apologizes, saying he used the wrong word. The guy turns fully around to face the class, wrapped in a heavy fog that cranks up the tension. He corrects himself, announcing that the actual survival rate for this challenge is a measly 20%. Chaos instantly breaks out among the students, freaking out over how they are supposed to multiply their energy in such a short time. Kneeling near the edge, a few rookies go into shock, staring down extreme danger. While the panic spreads, Lucius does the math in his head, comparing the bridge's drain rate to the distance to the other side. The MC calculates that even a high-tier mage would completely run out of gas trying to cross it purely on raw power. He instantly realizes this whole level up your strength in a month thing is just the professor playing mind games. Flexing absolute confidence, the kid sees exactly what the hidden trick behind this lesson is. Across the gap, the master keeps walking, leaving the students to fend for themselves. The class's panic spikes as they remember their classmate who just dropped into the dark void seconds ago. Too scared to face the problem, a huge chunk of the group turns around and sprints away from the floating platform. A bunch of nobles cry as they run, admitting they are not down to risk everything just for a single class. A green-haired kid yells in terror that he is going to make his mom cancel his academy enrollment today. Far away, Valerius hears the mass dropout and calls it a smart move, since weak people crack easily under pressure anyway. Watching them run, Valerius coldly mentions that cowards will just get wrecked on the battlefield eventually. He then points at the creepy bridge, warning the leftovers that they have exactly 1 month to train like crazy. Right then, a massive magic timer spawns in the sky reading 29 days, officially starting the countdown for the trial. Lucius stares the challenge down, keeping his usual chill vibe in the face of danger. With 20 days left on the clock, the rookies are already running like maniacs around the area to boost their stamina. Young Lilia Magnate is fully locked into an exhausting floor workout, feeling the burn of the extreme grind. Sprinting non-stop right after, the red-haired girl screams, trying to shake the fatigue out of her system. Nearby, a classmate frantically warns that Hector's training routine is way too risky. Panting heavy, Lilia worries her spiritual energy output will not be enough to pass the test. Under pouring rain, the students try to march while carrying massive boulders on their backs. One of the guys cannot handle the pressure and complains angrily about how ridiculous this is. The forced rule is brutal, demanding they carry 10 times their own body weight, while the noble struggles under the massive rock. She grinds her teeth, absolutely focused on not throwing away her spot no matter what. Away from the hustle, the professor tosses a small rock toward the pit to test the layout. Kneeling in the dark dirt, the instructor stares at the creepy bridge super intensely. Analyzing the setup, the master shows a heavily calculated look. Valerius chucks the item straight at the floating magic platform. He figures out that if contact with the material passes a certain safe time limit, the trap triggers. A heavy curse kicks in instantly, sucking out all the spiritual energy at once until the target is destroyed. Catching onto this lethal detail, the instructor confirms his theories about how insanely hard the challenge is. Meanwhile, the young swordsman channels a furious red aura all around his body. Hector lunges forward, ripping the air with a super violent horizontal slash. The strike hits the target dead on, causing massive damage to the training grounds. Watching from a distance, the professor tracks the noble heir's brute force leveling. With only 3 days left on the clock, the guy claims he found the one and only way to survive the lesson. Checking out the challenge, Lucius realizes the secret to passing has nothing to do with raw power stats. Clasping his hands, the kid realizes the real key is the pinpoint control technique he used in his past life. Back in those rough days, the MC was forced to master insane cellular-level energy control just to stay alive. The kid thinks back to that hyper-focused, repetitive grind that needed as much precision as threading a needle. It was through that absolute torture that the old warrior managed to create his phantom speed movement skill. That ability took a massive toll on his body, making the warrior cough up blood from the ridiculous strain. Kneeling in the dirt, the fighter stood at death's door countless times just to polish that power. Meditating peacefully under a tree, Lucius figures that applying that same logic to current magic is a breeze. Walking by, two rookies look confused, pointing out the kid has not done literally anything except sit there since day one. Watching the scene, Valerius assumes the cursed kid bribed someone during the entrance exam, and his free ride ends now. The professor keeps his eye on the isolated MC at the edge of the cliff. When the timer hits just 2 days left, the class is still killing themselves dragging logs through the forest. On the very last day, Hector fires off a combo of rapid strikes, frantically slicing the instructor watches the student's final push without showing any reaction. Lilia and the other rookies stop, totally exhausted, while the young lord stays completely still in the background. Glancing over, the red-haired noble angrily wonders if the kid really just threw in the towel right at the start. After all, that newborn was supposed to be the undisputed #1 pick of the whole selection. As soon as the magic clock hits 0 seconds, the MC opens his eyes, blasting a strong golden light. Satisfied with the results of his deep meditation, he gets ready for the real test. With time up, Valerius shows up hovering like a boss right in front of the creepy bridge, waiting for the class. Stepping down hard, the master announces the 1-month deadline is officially over. The whole group walks up to the scary structure looking super anxious. Staring the rookies down, the guy demands to see the results of their survival boot camp. Valerius asks dryly which one of them has the guts to cross the pit first. Lucius stays chill while the classmates around him sweat bullets, nobody wanting to take step 1. The rookies start arguing, trying to push the job onto the guy who was acting like top dog yesterday. Suddenly, confident footsteps break through the group's hesitation. Hector and Lilia step up at the exact same time, both shouting they will do the honors. The swordsman claims he was faster, making the girl furious and asking if he is deaf. Ignoring her, the guy says he is going first, completely brushing off her dramatic rant about not having time for games. The MC just watches the childish arguing, finding the whole thing funny. Right then, another student runs by laughing, mocking Lilia's loser face. The guy flexes his ego, claiming he trained super hard for this moment. Sprinting toward the bridge, he yells that he is taking the lead, catching the duo completely off guard. The girl is absolutely furious at the rushed classmate randomly cutting. As soon as the rookie's boots hit the structure, a purple energy grabs his legs instantly. The boy screams in panic, while his life force gets sucked out with zero mercy. Watching the pathetic scene, the swordsman calls the guy a total idiot. Completely out of juice, the student drops into the dark void, sealing his awful fate. Spooked by the result, another rookie realizes that guy's energy levels definitely should have been enough. Valerius cuts the chatter, warning that brute force is completely useless against the curse. He calmly explains that the real answer to the exam is not just about how much power you have saved up. The big secret is refining the energy inside your own body way faster than the bridge can suck it out. The whole class goes into shock, processing how insanely complicated that requirement actually is. Seeing everyone freeze up, the professor mocks them, asking what is wrong since nobody managed to cross yet. One guy claps back terrified, reminding him that one wrong step means losing their lives in the drop. Having zero patience for crying, the red-haired noble screams at everyone to get out of her way. Lilia shoots forward like a rocket, kicking up dust all over the dirt floor. She closes her eyes real quick, pooling every single drop of her inner power for the... Snapping her eyes open with burning fury, the girl shows an unbreakable drive to crush this lesson. Lilia charges across the bridge, flexing a ridiculously intense aura all around her body. She blasts a massive fire explosion to fight head-on against the magic structure's drain. Watching from afar, Valerius notes in his head that the student's spiritual power level is honestly impressive. But the weight of the curse starts pressing down hard, making the girl's run way tougher halfway across. The noble stumbles, losing her balance while the bridge tries to rip out all her vitality. The professor thinks to himself that fighting the trap head-on is super risky since it just keeps draining the target non-stop. Unable to handle the endless pressure, Lilia drops to her knees on the green stone setup. The master keeps watching the rookie's hardcore struggle totally ice cold. Panting heavily, the girl looks up full of rage and warns the curse not to underestimate her. Fueled by anger, she pushes her power to the max, swearing she is not going to lose to some basic flying platform. With a heavy stomp, the student pushes forward, breaking past her physical and magical limits. Valerius is surprised to see the girl using pure willpower to force energy out and outpace the drain's rhythm. With that, the noble finally makes it across the gap and zooms right past the instructor in a flash. As soon as she hits solid ground, she collapses on the floor totally drained, struggling hard to breathe. The guy just sighs, looking at the pathetic state the student ended up in after beating the challenge. Lilia sits in the dirt feeling super proud and asks sarcastically what the professor thought of her run. Straight to the point, Valerius declares she passed the test, making the girl hype up with joy. Right after, Hector starts his run, but the professor thinks his method is totally inefficient. The instructor figures using brute force like that is only going to screw the students over in future fights. Then he focuses on the young swordsman's game plan. The master notices the guy picked up on the tiny delay between touching the bridge and the energy drain kicking in. Using that glitch, the noble grips his weapon tight, ready to make a move. The swordsman takes off like a rocket, calculating he just needs to move before the curse has time to act. Using his insane speed, he dashes across the magic structure in a devastating run. Touching down with total control on the other side, Hector declares a basic trap could never touch his blade. Keeping the momentum, the boy swings a massive slash through the air, sending the pressure of the hit straight at the professor. Valerius dodges the sneak attack just by tilting his head super casually. Flipping to a dark vibe, the instructor admits he would love to praise the prodigy's creativity for dodging the absorption timer. But with an invisible move, the master completely locks down the student and warns that trying to take down the teacher is a no-go, while the kid demands to hear his official result. The man then confirms the swordsman passed, and the guy answers with pure ego, saying that was obvious. Watching from the loser's side, a rookie whispers in awe at the swordsman's speed, proving the prodigy's talent is real. Suddenly, the sound of super calm footsteps grabs everyone's attention. Lilia and the instructor whip their heads around to see who is walking up to the pit. The rookies get hyped, quickly realizing the absolute best student from the selection is stepping up. The blonde rookie sizes Lucius up with doubt, noticing there is something very different about him. The class whispers that the young lord does not seem to have as much magic energy or physical buff stats as Hector. Valerius cracks a smirk, super curious to see what the kid is about to pull off. The master wonders in his head what the Elminster heir's big trick will be, while the boy finally steps onto the bridge. Lucius walks with absolute zen, leaving his classmates mind blown that he is facing the danger with zero fear. Far away, the swordsman's squad starts eating their own words, wondering if the kid really deserved the #1 spot. The MC just keeps walking with style, holding a perfect pace without dropping a single sweat. Annoyed by how easy the kid is making it look, Lilia complains his technique is boring, while Valerius watches closely. The professor admits that this is the flawless answer of someone who 100% figured out how the trap works. As soon as the young guy crosses the finish line, the instructor sighs in disappointment, thinking he hyped himself up for nothing. Right then, the blonde rookie pops up panting on the other side, celebrating that his hardcore training finally paid off. Seeing the safe crossing, Hector turns his head and yells to his goons that walking across normally is totally doable. Instantly, the rest of the class rushes the structure, hyped up thinking the worst part is over. The red-haired noble watches the mob and judges her classmates as idiots for getting confident just by following the herd. Suddenly, the instructor's face drops hard when he notices something awful is about to go down. The Elminster kid stands away from the group, charging up a tiny spark of energy on his fingertip. Valerius starts sweating bullets, finally grasping the true scale of what the young lord just did. The master realizes the MC was refining his energy and dropping microscopic bits of power into the bridge with every step. That surgical control overloaded the structure without triggering the drain, silently deleting a 1,000-year-old curse. Confused by the sudden shaking, the rookies freeze in the middle of the pit, asking where that loud noise is coming from. Lilia and Valerius's eyes go wide in shock, realizing a total collapse is coming right now. In a colossal explosion of blue energy, the entire structure shatters into pieces, proving the kid wrecked the magic formula straight from the root. The students drop along with the rubble into the smoke, while the professor officially ranks the prodigy as an absolute monster. Trying to process the chaos, the master admits he never even imagined the rookie could take it to that extreme. Shaking with terror, the blonde rookie wrongly guesses the bridge broke because it was just too old, and thanks the heavens he crossed in time. His buddies totally agree, super relieved and cheering that they barely survived and locked in their passing grade. Catching his breath, the blonde student looks at the pit, feeling really bad for the classmates who fell. He feels sorry for the situation, remembering the first guys who dropped also grinded their hardest during training. Right then, the thick fog at the bottom of the hole mysteriously starts clearing up. Valerius snaps his fingers dramatically, telling the passing students not to sweat it at all. A massive power wraps around the fallen students, levitating all the knocked-out bodies back to the surface at the same time. Completely shook, the rookie yells, asking how it is even possible that crew is still alive after that brutal drop. The instructor turns to face the group while laying the losers on the ground, grabbing the whole class's attention. Flashing a confident smile, the master officially announces that absolutely every single one of them passed the exam. The call sparks massive confusion, with one girl stuttering that the failures should be kicked out. The guy agrees that technical skills were graded during the run, but reveals that was not the real point of the test. He wraps up saying the main goal of that torturous first month was to test everyone's grade. The professor praises the kids for not chickening out, even when extreme danger was knocking on all their doors. The master promises that this unbreakable spiritual strength built under extreme pressure will become the most valuable weapon they have. The red-haired noble and her classmates soak in the heavy advice, realizing true leveling up goes way beyond natural talent. The wind hits the instructor's face, wrapping up an unforgettable lesson for the Academy's newest generation. Starting to speak to the whole class, Instructor Valeria states that the step they took today carries immeasurable value. Lilia and Hector pay close attention to the professor's words, still feeling the tension of the challenge they just crushed. With a friendlier look, the master officially congratulates all the rookies for surviving the test. The professor admits he is genuinely proud of how the group handled it, leaving the students amazed by the unexpected praise. Acting super cocky, the red-haired noble flexes her confidence, agreeing that this excellent result was already obvious. At that, the kids relax their posture a bit while soaking in the end of such a draining trial. Lucius keeps his face completely chill and focused, not letting himself get caught up in his classmates' celebration hype. Cutting the laid-back vibe, Valerius takes a step forward, warning that there is still one little detail left to cover. The man explains that surviving the test and getting your final grade are two totally different things, so he is going to drop the current ranking, starting from the top. Shocking everyone, Lucius Elminster's name is revealed sitting at 45th place in the Academy rankings. The MC hears his spot but keeps a cold stare, fully aware he hid his real skills while crossing the bridge. Mad about the result, one of the rookies asks how it is possible the kid got that score just by walking normally across the bridge. Ignoring the complaining, the classmates start gossiping, trying to guess who took the next spot, betting heavy on young Hector. Finding the situation funny, Lilia crosses her arms and acts super snobby, hinting that the next name called is definitely going to be hers. Pointing right at the group, the master kills the suspense by revealing who took 46th place. The professor calls out Noah Raven, a mystery rookie who is always hiding under a dark hood. Absolutely furious with the result, Hector loses his mind, demanding to know where the heck this nosy rookie came from. The other students are also stunned, noticing the masked guy snagged a higher rank than the sword prodigy. Lilia completely loses it, screaming how unfair it is that she got ranked lower than such a boring guy, and tries to remember if she had ever even seen him before. While the chaos goes crazy, Noah shrinks down on the floor, hugging his knees and quietly confirming he was always hanging around. Watching the drama from afar, Lucius sees the noble's over-the-top reactions and thinks the group dynamic is pretty funny. Taking back control, Instructor Valerius announces the grades are locked in and tells everyone to just accept their spots without crying about it. Seeing her name stuck in 57th place, the red-haired noble grinds her teeth, furious that she lost to the hoodie kid. Meanwhile, the swordsman curses his luck for dropping to 47th place, snapping at his goons to shut up immediately. While all this is happening, the magic board confirms Lucius and Noah are at the very top of that specific rookie class. The whole room starts whispering about the ranking shifts, with some celebrating their level-ups while others cry over their tanked scores. Wasting no time, the master asks for everyone's attention to explain how the academy grind will work starting tomorrow. He reveals that for all upcoming practical stuff, the students will be forced into groups of 4 people. The guy breaks down that this squad setup will be their core operating unit for both regular classes and future missions. To top it off, the professor warns that stronger teams will get slapped with harder tasks, reminding them that grading is still solo and rankings can flip at any second. Shifting to a harsher tone, Valerius warns that their own teammates will also be their biggest rivals on the school leaderboard. The rookies gulp, realizing how brutal the system is, forcing them to team up and fight the exact same people at the same time. The master keeps explaining, saying the squad lists in the first official mission will drop tomorrow morning. Turning around to leave, the man pauses for a second and announces he is making one exception to the general rule. He declares that the 4 students with the highest scores in the class will form a single elite squad. Lilia gets mad at the update and complains out loud, asking why she of all people has to team up with these weirdos. Pointing her finger in everyone's face, the girl tells her new teammates not to drag down her progress at the academy. With the call made, the professor wraps up his speech, telling everyone to gear up for what is coming. Thinking over the rules, Lucius realizes missions are handed out based on the total power level of each squad. Staring at the stressed-out redhead and the angry swordsman, the young prodigy calculates that putting the top rankers together means attracting the absolute worst problems possible. He figures dealing with this toxic team is going to be exhausting, but admits it is the fastest route to buffing his own power. Suddenly, the instructor calls out to the elite team again, announcing he has one more major update. Flashing a super confident smile, the master reveals their first mission is already locked in ahead of schedule. The guy locks eyes with the elite squad, setting the stage for tomorrow's practical test. Flexing pure challenge, Valerius orders that their only goal will be to land a single strike on him during their fight. The next morning, the squad meets up in an open spot in the forest, where Lilia mocks the mission, thinking it is going to be super easy to pull off. Very calmly, the professor stands in the middle of the battlefield and says he is going to show them how things actually work around here. A blue spark starts flaring up from the master's body as he tells the students not to get the wrong idea about this setup. A colossal magic aura explodes around the guy, creating blue flames so intense they instantly spook the entire squad. Wrapped in that devastating power, the instructor promises that even though they are the class prodigies, none of them stand a chance in a one-on-one fight. The man holds out his hand, calling the 4 students into combat, demanding they attack all at once if they want any hope of winning. The spiritual energy pressure is so insane that the kids step back a bit, feeling the crushing weight of that intimidating vibe. The wind violently shakes the trees, while the inspector's power whips up an actual blue tornado in the middle of the field. Refusing to back down, Lilia summons her red flames and tells everyone to move, swearing she is going to land the first hit solo. Lucius also unleashes his own glowing aura, impressed by his old acquaintance's brutal flex of raw strength. The MC remembers the opponent is a high-level Imperial Inspector, literally one of the most valuable military weapons in the whole empire. Focused on the fight, the kid figures there are probably very few people in this entire academy who could actually go toe-to-toe with the professor in a duel. Valerius wiggles his fingers, taunting the team, showing he is completely unbothered by the prodigies charging at him. Once the master signals the start, the redhead and the swordsman rush in full speed, while the young lord decides to wait for the perfect timing. With an excited smirk on his face, Lucius realizes this is the ultimate chance to test his own limits in his new life. Hector takes the front line radiating red fury, betting all his speed on the opening strike against the master. The swordsman drops a devastating horizontal slash, tearing through the forest air straight at the target. But the guy's eyes go wide in shock when he feels his blade completely stop dead in its tracks. Using just one finger and a chill smile, Valerius halts the prodigy's weapon like it is absolutely nothing. In a flash, the professor unleashes an energy blast that throws the swordsman far away with zero effort. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lilia jumps into the air, gathering a massive amount of fire in her hands. The noble locks onto the target, dead set on proving her flames can break the instructor's shield. She comes down hard, triggering a deafening crash on the ground, kicking up a massive cloud of smoke and rubble across the field. The girl quickly backs up after the explosion, getting ready for the instant counterattack that is definitely coming. Right then, Shy Noah jumps into action, casting a purple magic array right under the enemy's feet. The instructor stands perfectly still in the middle of the spell, just watching the rookies attempt to lock him down. The freshman throws his hands out, pushing the magic to the max, trying to freeze the movements of the strongest guy in the arena. Shattering the trap effortlessly, Valerius blasts forward like a purple lightning bolt, cutting off Lilia and Hector before they can even breathe. The master tags both students with a lightning-fast strike, proving their teamwork is still full of rookie mistakes. Wrapping up the clean counter, the guy easily pushes the nobles back and coldly announces they are just getting in his way. Annoyed by the sloppy teamwork, Lilia yells to get the swordsman's attention. Hector turns his head, confused by his teammate yelling at him mid-fight. She scolds him, telling him not to blindly rush the front line like that, calling the guy out for being super reckless. Shaking with fear in the back, Noah asks if his teammate is literally trying to get wiped out on purpose. Instructor Valerius just watches the squad's childish arguing while keeping an unbreakable posture. Flexing a dark expression, the master shows that the prodigy's lack of teamwork is exactly what he expected. Right then, Lucius goes on the offensive and starts pooling a ridiculous amount of blue magic in his hands. Locked onto the opening the professor left, the young lord refines that energy into a pinpoint attack. The pressure from the spell is so massive that the swordsman and the mage actually stop fighting just to stare at their teammate. Wasting zero time, the MC fires the massive blast straight at the target. The professor notices the speed and heavy weight of the attack coming right at his face. With the impact of the magic ripping through the air, Lilia has to cover up from the crazy windstorm caused by the shot. A brutal explosion kicks up a huge cloud of smoke and debris all over the forest zone. Riding the recoil from his own hit, Lucius lands smoothly, keeping a safe distance. Waiting for the dust to settle, the kid sighs, finding this whole situation a bit exhausting. Stepping out of the smoke without a scratch, Valerius jokes that he would really appreciate it if they did not wreck the Academy's property. With a simple wave of his hand, the master clears out all the leftover energy from the strike floating around the field. He keeps up a super confident stance, proving that a direct hit will not be enough to take him down. The MC sizes up the enemy's durability with a highly analytical glare. Refusing to take the L, Lilia and Hector charge in together, swearing they will actually hit the instructor this time. Lucius decides to hang back, just studying the combat movement patterns. The master blocks the girl's flames and the guy's blade at the exact same time with ridiculous ease. Using his overwhelming aura, Valerius pushes back the double team in the blink of an eye. Right then, the young lord spots a crucial detail in the enemy's defense. Both nobles get launched backwards, sliding across the grass from the force of the counterattack. Locked onto the instructor, the MC figures out how that technique actually works. He notices the professor is just making it look like he is fighting the whole squad at once. In reality, Valerius is dealing with one student at a time at a speed that is almost impossible to track. The kid figures out the only real opening pops up for a split second behind the master's back during these high-speed transitions. To exploit that blind spot, Lucius plans to perfectly sync his next stealth spell with his teammates' rhythm. Feeling the massive power gap, Lilia clenches her fist, getting super frustrated with the situation. She stands up angry and tells the professor to stop underestimating their squad's potential. The instructor notices the student's persistence with a slight tone of surprise. The redhead and the swordsman launch another furious rush, mixing magic and physical hits. Giving backup from afar, Noah fires off a bunch of magic projectiles to try and distract the target. Using the chaos on the front line, Lucius ducks down and preps his stealth spell in total silence. Exactly as predicted, Valerius intercepts the two nobles, blocking the synced attacks without even trying. But the master's eyes go wide when he feels a dangerous presence pop up out of nowhere in his blind spot. The young prodigy jumps right into the exact opening he predicted on the professor's back. Hector and Lilia keep the pressure up from the front, forcing the instructor to hold his block. The guy warns that a head-on rush is useless, but immediately tries to react to the real threat coming from behind. Terrified of the incoming clash, Shy Noah curls up on the ground, throwing up a shield around himself. The two frontline attackers get pushed back again by the enemy's heavy aura. Already positioned midair, the MC blasts his magic straight into the master's unprotected back. The kid flashes a winner's smirk, believing he finally cracked the unbreakable defense. The spell hits the target dead on, triggering a massive flash of light in the middle of the training field. The young lord watches the fallout of his sneak attack without dropping his guard for a second. Hector and Lilia watch the impact, completely mind-blown by their teammates' insane precision. A blue shockwave sweeps the ground, confirming the raw power packed into that hit. The MC keeps his cool, waiting for the smoke to clear so he can check the actual damage. When the dust finally settles, the squad finds out Valerius popped a perfect spherical shield at the very last second. Completely in disbelief, the swordsman mutters that this has to be a sick joke. Sweating cold, Noah whines that not even an attack of that size managed to put a single scratch on the instructor. Dropping his defensive shield, the guy praises the kid for actually forcing him to use real magic. Lucius lands on the grass, taking a cautious stance after his foolproof plan totally flopped. The master adopts a disappointed tone, claiming maybe he set his expectations a little too high for this group. With an ice-cold glare, Valerius doubles down that if they don't hit the goal within 1 hour, the squad is getting disbanded. The frontline duo feels the weight of the threat, realizing things just got extremely critical. The professor warns that they need to start acting like a real team, and that he is going to stop going easy on them right now. To wrap it up, the guy advises them to cook up a way better strategy than just hunting for obvious openings. The young lord processes the professor's tip while piecing together a new game plan in his head. Losing her patience, Lilia totally snaps, asking if this guy is even human to tank so much back-to-back damage. She bites her lip, feeling the intense frustration of having her attacks totally cancelled out so easily. The girl walks right up to the MC, dropping all her ego. Staring her teammate down, the mage demands to know if he has some kind of plan to get the squad out of this mess. The noble swallows her pride and admits the guy was the only one who actually forced the master to pop a real defense. She tells him to spit out the strategy already so they can finally flip the game. Adjusting her gloves, the student shows a vibe that is way more focused on actual teamwork. Lilia firmly declares she refuses to get kicked out of the academy right at the start of training. Having the girl's full attention, Lucius decides to share what he picked up on during the last rush. The MC thinks back to the exact second his stealth magic smashed into the enemy's body. He explains he spotted a tiny glitch in the spiritual energy during the impact, which makes the redhead curious. Breaking down Valerius's unbreakable stance, the young lord explains the mechanics behind that shield. The kid figures out the professor's barrier is not equally strong in every direction at once. To tank heavy hits, the master shifts all the shield's energy to the exact point of impact, leaving the rest of it completely exposed. Lucius explains that by hitting multiple spots on the shield at the exact same time, the defensive energy will scatter and get super weak. Hearing the logic, Lilia agrees the idea makes total sense for breaking the guard. Surprised by how fast the strategy came together, Hector asks if the rookie really managed to spot the professor's trick in that single split second from the last attack. The kid holds out his hand confirming the theory, while locking in entirely on prepping the next combo move with his teammates' fire. Hyped about the discovery, the mage figures that the more attacks they spam at the master, the better the result, getting a nod from the young lord who asks if she can handle it. Stepping up to the plate, the young swordsman swears that if volume is what they need, they can leave it all to him, but makes sure to point out he is not helping the MC on purpose. Far across the field, the professor waits patiently for the next wave, hidden in the shadows of his heavy cloak in the quiet arena. Super confident, the master mutters to himself, hyping up the squad, curious to see how the students will try to catch him off guard this time. Right then, the whole team charges in full throttle in a synced push, led by the redhead who calls the shot. The four prodigies surround the instructor, unleashing a massive barrage of attacks coming from literally every direction. Holding down the backline, Noah casts a bunch of dark magic binds to pin the enemy down from the floor. The guy handles the spam, noticing the overload tactic, but coldly calculates that their power level is still way too weak to drop him. Suddenly, the professor's sharp eyes catch a highly dangerous move popping up fast in the middle of all that chaos. Dropping from the sky, Hector unleashes an absolute storm of blades aimed straight at the target's head. The tip of the main sword violently crashes into the instructor's invisible shield, sparking like crazy. Pushing the impact to the max to draw all the defense's attention, the guy screams his teammate's name, demanding she do her part. Answering the call, Lilia blasts a massive pillar of flames aiming to totally crush the master's front guard once and for all. The brutal fire strike hits the shield dead on, generating an insane heatwave that swallows the entire battlefield. Even with the massive combo effort, Instructor Valerius blocks both heavy hits at the exact same time without taking a single step back. His magic shield tanks the extreme pressure, perfectly splitting its strength between the two major impact points. Acknowledging how fast the squad leveled up, the guy praises the push, calling it the team's best attempt so far. But he quickly crushes the students' hopes, stating in a dark tone that it still wasn't enough to push past his limits. Completely wiped out from burning through a colossal amount of power, the duo pants, admitting they don't have a single drop of strength left. In the back, Noah also loses his balance and steps back exhausted, unable to hold the support spells for much longer. The mage gives in to the fatigue and drops to her knees on the grass, while the swordsman jams his weapon into the dirt to lean on so he doesn't collapse. Taking advantage of the exact second the professor is about to counter, Lucius pops up behind his teammates, pressing his hands against their backs. With an insanely focused look, the MC announces with absolute ice that the squad's fight isn't over yet. He injects a monstrous amount of blue aura, forcing the energy to surge straight through Hector and Lilia's shaking bodies. The sudden power shock makes the duo scream, while Lucius's raw magic fuels the momentum of their previous attack. This crazy fusion creates one single gigantic spiritual blade, soaked in furious flames and heavy dark energy. This ultimate strike slices the air with crushing pressure, heading straight for the instructor who is still standing in the middle. Being used purely as conduits, the swordsman and the mage go wide-eyed, completely stunned by the scale of energy flowing right through them. On the other side of the arena, the master's unbreakable face finally cracks, as he realizes the real threat of that triple combo attack. The colossal crash of the blade against the shield triggers a blue light explosion that sweeps the training field, launching debris everywhere. The shockwave is so violent it blows the entire team backward, forcing the students to skid hard across the grass. When the flash finally fades, a tiny cut starts bleeding on the instructor's neck, proving the absolute defense was actually broken. The four rookies slide together across the wrecked ground, managing to stop safely after tanking the heavy wind. The man calmly wipes the scratch on his face, feeling the blood on his fingers, realizing his impenetrable guard actually gave out. Flashing a genuine smile of satisfaction, Valerius officially declares the squad passed the test. Super relieved by the call, Hector and Lilia break into huge winner smiles, celebrating the success of that near-suicide mission. Shaking uncontrollably, the hooded rookie sighs in relief, thanking the heavens for surviving that nightmare in one piece. Right after, the kid loses his very last bit of strength and faceplants into the dirt, totally paralyzed from exhaustion. Lilia and Hector also drop to their knees panting super hard, feeling the physical toll of that extreme mana drain. Getting his usual ego back, the swordsman pants, telling Lucius he should be super thankful for the borrowed power, even suggesting he'd accept the mage as his humble sidekick. The redhead takes it personally instantly and stands up furious, telling her teammate to watch his mouth before she decides to handle him right there. Completely ignoring the noble's childish beef, the MC stays turned away, just staring at his own hand super analytically. Deep in his own thoughts, the young prodigy wonders what exactly that weird sensation he just felt was. He mentally breaks down that, during the final clash, the volume of expanding magic and the physical weight of the sword merged into one single form. This realization makes him quickly understand that his strong spiritual energy acted as the perfect glue to combine two totally different types of power. The quiet memory of his dark past surfaces, making the kid notice he controlled the magic with the exact same flow he used to swing his old sword. Mind blown by the discovery, he starts theorizing that mastering the absolute fusion of these two arts would push him to an unscalable tier of strength. A dark smirk creeps onto the MC's face just thinking about perfecting this concept and turning it into a physical fighting style. Meanwhile, his teammates keep yelling and throwing friendly insults at each other in the background of the windy arena. Grabbing the whole squad's attention, the master confirms their passing grade and explains the real point of that beatdown was to teach them the value of teamwork. Walking slowly across the wrecked field, the instructor points out the students are still super green, but admits they are already getting the hang of it. Turning his back to the rookies, Valerius drops one last piece of advice, telling them not to forget the sync they pulled off in that final push. The professor's words echo in the kid's head, who mutters to himself, remembering the unique vibe of that group technique. He tries to mentally replay the power flow, feeling like the lethal precision of swordplay and the heavy hitting of spells literally became the same thing. Clenching his fist with absolute certainty, the young guy swears that if he can master this art solo, he will have forged the ultimate weapon to punish that traitor lord. Later that same day, the scene shifts to the massive, premium shelves of the Royal Academy's central library. Far away from his noisy classmates, the student spends hours isolated, intensely researching ancient teaching grimoires. Reading a heavy book on basic magic theory, Lucius reviews how transmuted spiritual energy is forced to travel through the human body's internal circuits. The ancient text shows that this natural aura ends up splitting and converting into a specific type of power, focused either on spellcasting or raw blade control. The knowledge written in the book states as an absolute fact that people are born with only one of these channels in their biology. With the facts straight, the MC figures that his technique from earlier only worked because it was a forced overlap of his magic on top of the swordsman's strength channel. He slams the book shut, feeling the weight of that logic, starting to wonder if pulling off this fusion without someone else's help is actually impossible. But digging deeper into the research, the lore mentions an ultra-rare myth of anomalous beings born holding both circuits, noting that the historic founder himself managed to merge both paths. A massive spark of hope lights up the young lord's eyes, feeling like he just found the exact answer he was looking for. A bit later, the kid sneaks off to the night training grounds and pulls out a standard weapon, wanting to field test the theory. Focusing his massive aura hard, he mimics the battle's moves, injecting dangerous amounts of mana straight into the sword's frame. The crazy pressure destabilizes the metal, shattering the weapon right in the student's hands in an epic fail. Even though the attempt flopped, Lucius clearly felt the spark of a raw channel waking up, reminding him of the physical limits from his past life. This backs up his theory that the sword battle circuit he suffered to polish in the past is still hiding somewhere inside his reincarnated soul. Putting the final pieces together, he declares that if he can unlock that old channel and mix it with his current massive magic affinity, the level cap will be broken. Flexing a dark, super determined look, the heir announces this is the way to score the exact same anomalous power as the historic founder. With this new goal locked in his brain, the prodigy gets back to the daily practical training routine, fully focused on casually dodging the barrage in the courtyard. Suddenly, the loud screech of a megaphone turning on echoes across the field, grabbing the attention of every student there. A super hyped-up woman loudly introduces herself as the instructor running the class, revealing her name is Kathy. The teacher's over-the-top energy kinda annoys the students' ears, while she announces a special drill for the squads ranked from 30th to 100th out of all 500 students at the academy. Holding the megaphone, the instructor declares this is going to be a high-tier match between the classes. A bunch of upperclassmen stare down the rookies from afar with a look of total superiority and disrespect. One of the older students hypes up his bros to give it their all so they can climb even higher on the school leaderboard. Lilia spots the rival crew and whispers to her teammates that those guys have higher ranks than them. Right then, the upperclassmen start chuckling, obviously looking down on the rookie prodigy squad. Super triggered by the bait, the mage glares and tells the rivals to stop staring at her like that. The The girl steps up aggressively toward the enemy group to check them. Hector and Noah follow the teammate's impulsive move, feeling like a brawl is about to pop off. Blinded by rage, the redhead ends up violently bumping into one of the upperclassmen blocking the way. She looks up furious and yells, calling the guy out in a super rude way. Acting crazy intimidating, the older student sarcastically apologizes, claiming he couldn't even see the girl because of his own massive size, while shy Noah shrinks back terrified of the giant brute. Getting back to the lesson, Kathy announces the match will be super easy and reveals there is a spiritual orb hidden inside a giant tree in the swamp. The teacher points to the glowing light in the forest and declares the first squad to get their hands on the item is the grand winner. Lucius listens to the breakdown super interested, muttering the artifact's name to himself. Hyped up, the woman explains the object is a crystal of pure condensed energy, capable of massively boosting the power limit of whoever absorbs it. The students instantly go crazy, with one of them realizing in shock that swallowing the crystal means skipping years of hardcore grinding in a single second. An excited smile pops onto the MC's face, looking at that golden opportunity. The young lord figures that is the exact item he needs to hit his major goal. He calculates that absorbing a massive payload of purified energy might be the perfect trigger to wake up his past life's dormant battle circuit, while the instructor announces combat is allowed and the test ends at sundown. A bunch of upperclassmen start cracking their knuckles and smiling threateningly at the rookie squad. Lilia, Hector, and the hoodie kid get into position, ready for the inevitable clash with the older students. A flare shoots into the sky, officially kicking things off, making dozens of students sprint like maniacs toward the forest. The freshman squad blasts through the trees, leaving their rivals eating dust. Leading the rush, Lucius locks his focus on the path with unbreakable determination. Suddenly, an upperclassman tracks the prodigy's fast movement through the brush. Multiple older students drop from the trees to ambush the group, sarcastically apologizing to the rookies in pure mockery. Not sweating the jump scare at all, Hector stares down the attackers, warning them not to think their higher rank gives them any edge here. The swordsman draws his weapon lightning fast and blocks the enemy's mid-air strike, telling the upperclassmen to go to hell. The clash of blades sparks up the dense jungle. Using his raw speed, the rookie prodigy pushes the attacker back, blasting him away with a single move. The giant from earlier hits the dirt totally defeated right in front of the rookies, leaving the rest of his squad shook. Through the kicked-up dust, Lucius stays chill and tells his team not to get played by those ranking numbers. The MC brings up the brutal survival test they passed, claiming their team is way stronger than they think. Hyped by their leader's words, the red-haired mage and the swordsman get their full confidence back for the fight. But the giant on the ground groans, asking why they think they are so tough, while a bunch of upperclassmen surround the squad. A blonde, high-class student flashes a toxic smirk and declares the real fight starts right now. Hyped for the challenge, the sword prodigy gears up to face the threat head-on. Instantly, the upperclassmen fire off slicing wind spells at the rookies, calling it a freshman hunt. The enemy squad leader pulls a colossal amount of green energy in his hands, laughing out loud as he promises to steal all the rookies' points. With a violent swing, the guy blasts that gigantic destructive magic straight at shy Noah. Realizing the lethal hit is going to catch his defenseless teammate dead on, the swordsman's eyes go wide with panic. Without hesitating, Hector dashes at an insane speed, tearing up the ground to try and intercept the deadly strike. The veteran leader is actually surprised by the rookie's crazy reaction time. Hector pushes his rush to the absolute limit, focused entirely on shielding his squadmate from the incoming nuke. But the older student smashes the swordsman into the dirt with brutal force, telling the kid not to get too full of himself. Using the opening, two other attackers jump in with weapons drawn to keep the beatdown going. Seeing things go south, Lilia takes an aggressive stance, ready to hit back with everything she has. The girl summons an aura of intense flames wrapping around her own arms. In a furious rush, the noble throws a punch coated in pure fire right at the enemies. The brutal impact of the heat magic crashes straight into the veteran's weapons, setting off a massive flash. Handling the pushback from the strike, the mage clicks her tongue and tells the opponents to stop playing games with her. One of the older guys grinds his teeth, feeling the ridiculous raw power of the rookie's fire. Pooling even more mana, Lilia forces the flaming punch forward to shatter the enemy defense. She screams at them not to underestimate her team and unleashes a heatwave that swallows the opponents all at once. Watching the attackers back off, the redhead flashes a super confident smirk. Meanwhile, the blonde veteran attacks again, summoning sharp ice spikes from the ground at the rookies, calling them brats. Totally frozen with fear, Noah tries to shield himself from the incoming rain of ice. Getting his balance back, Hector spins his sword super fast and shatters the ice spikes, doubling down that they are legit strong. The hooded kid pops a magic defense circle, reminding everyone that the leader's hype speech applied to the whole team. Creating dark energy tentacles, Noah smashes the rest of the freezing spell, yelling that he is part of this elite squad too. The freshman drops into an offensive stance, letting his dark aura overflow his whole body. With a slick move, he fires a massive blast of dark power right at the enemies. The brutal attack catches the giant dead on, launching the veteran into the dirt with absolute ease. The rookie squad stands tall staring down the wrecked enemies, while the redhead pants and notes they finally won the clash. Strolling casually across the battlefield, Lucius asks in a chill tone if the mess is over yet. The prodigy trio stays on alert, feeling super proud they beat the numbers disadvantage. Not giving a single care about the older students groaning in the dirt, the MC tells the squad to keep running toward the main objective. Far away, Instructor Kathy watches the whole thing through monitoring spheres, shook to see the top 5 teams got wiped out in just a few minutes. The professor stares at the young lord's image on the magic bubble, blown away that a freshman squad dropped the veterans. She secretly praises the raw strength and grit Lilia, Hector, and Noah showed during the whole brawl. But the woman locks all her attention on Lucius's chill vibe, super intrigued by the kid's attitude. The master is amazed, realizing the guy managed to boost the entire squad's morale with just one word, even though he had the stats to wipe all the veterans solo if he wanted to. Watching the whole layout through the magic sphere, the instructor flashes an intrigued smile and wonders who the heck that kid actually is. Meanwhile, Lucius keeps sprinting through the forest with absolute focus, leading his squad. Hiding in the dark bushes, a rival team spies on the rookie's push, paying super close attention. Through their binoculars, the veterans track every step the prodigies take toward the big prize. The freshmen cross a massive clearing, keeping a fast pace so they don't lose their lead. Super hyped, the red-haired noble cheers that the target is right up ahead, but the young lord tells everyone to halt instantly because another squad is tailing them. The group finally pulls up to the giant glowing tree in the middle of the swamp. Tucked in the branches, the highly wanted spiritual energy orb gives off a blinding light. Locked in on the win, the MC and his teammates pick up the pace for the final stretch. An intense glow takes over the kid's eyes as he plots to absorb that power. Suddenly, Lucius slams the brakes and orders the whole team to stop right there. Lilia gets mad, questioning the call, and warns the rivals are gonna beat them to it, but he just tells her to listen closely. The mage's eyes go wide when she picks up a weird noise coming from the target's direction. The massive tree starts violently shaking while a red light blinks inside it. Shook by the sudden glitch, Hector and the redhead freeze in place, waiting for the worst. Shy Noah points dead ahead, completely terrified of what just popped up. A monstrous mouth packed with razor-sharp teeth bursts out of the shadows, shattering the tree's light. A giant fish-shaped beast jumps out of the water, giving every student in the area a massive jump scare. The veterans who plan to jump the rookies back off in a panic, seeing the colossal creature. In the middle of the mass panic, Lucius just stands there with his hands in his pockets, looking bored out of his mind. In the monitoring room, one of the professors watches the scene on the magic sphere and asks in a panic what kind of monster that is. The guy turns to Instructor Kathy, demanding they cancel the exam and call for backup right now. The woman just hums a tune, showing she is totally chilled out about the whole thing. Flashing a sadistic smirk, she denies the request and orders the test to keep going normally, leaving her coworker fuming. Keeping her stance firm, the master argues that little hiccups like this happen all the time. She tells the professor not to be ridiculous while watching the chaos unfold in the forest. Super stressed, the guy sweats cold, having no idea how to deal with his coworker's reckless. Putting on a dark look, Cassie states that anyone who loses their life here wouldn't survive a real battlefield anyway. The instructor stutters, trying to argue against that extreme logic. Quickly, the woman cracks a joking smile, telling him she was just messing with him. With a wink, the professor promises that if things go off the rails, they can leave it all to her. The other masters let out a sigh of relief, realizing she actually has a backup plan. But Kathy looks back at the screen, remembering there are not supposed to be any magic beasts in that zone. With a suspicious look, she silently figures out something very sketchy is going down out there. Back in the swamp, the students team up, blasting a storm of attacks at the giant monster. One of the swordsmen jumps up, dropping a vertical slash with everything he has got. The blades crash violently against the creature's skin, but just bounce off without doing zero damage. Spotting the issue, a veteran yells that the beast's scales are getting buffed by the energy orb. Trying to help out, Noah fires multiple dark blasts at the target. Lilia follows up the attack by shooting a massive wave of furious flames. The combo barrage triggers a colossal explosion, lighting up the whole forest. The smoke slowly clears out while the students wait to see what the strike did. To everyone's absolute horror, the monster is still casually swimming through the glowing water. A rookie panics, noticing they didn't manage to put a single scratch on the beast. The creature rises up again looking like a menace, throwing the students into a panic with no clue what to do. Smashing the water hard, the monster kicks up a massive wave and charges full speed at the kids. Facing that gigantic mouth, the students scream for everyone to run before they become a snack. Going totally against the crowd running away, Lucius jumps super high straight at the danger with magic bullets circling him. A veteran is mind-blown by the suicide play and asks if the rookie completely lost his mind. Solo in the air, the MC goes face-to-face with the colossal beast. The red-haired mage screams her teammate's name, calling him an idiot. The giant fish unhinges its monstrous jaw, ready to swallow the target whole. Swallowed by the creature's shadow, the young lord flashes a smile like he has everything totally under control. In a flash, the beast eats the kid whole and dives right back down. Lilia sprints frantically toward the water, completely traumatized by what she just watched. The creature sinks, leaving nothing but a trail of foam in the swamp. Finding the tragedy funny, a student with glasses calls the kid a fool and mutters that he hates rookies with zero combat experience. Suddenly, the monster's tough skin starts cracking, shooting intense beams of light out of its body. The students point and stutter in pure terror at that bizarre glitch. The beast gets launched out of the water in a massive energy explosion that lights up the night. Trying to cover up, a guy warns that if that huge carcass drops from that height, the tsunami will swallow the whole area. The beast crashes down while destructive energy builds up inside its head. A monumental explosion shatters the monster midair, lighting up the swamp like it is daytime. Lilia and the crew watch the destruction up high, completely speechless. The veteran student who was talking trash earlier is left with his jaw on the floor seeing that ridiculous power. As the light fades, Lucius's lone figure appears, floating smoothly back down to the dirt. Sweating cold, the glasses guy wonders how that rookie managed to blow up the beast from the inside out all by himself. Holding the glowing crystal, the MC flexes a proud smile and declares he finally got what he wanted. The spiritual energy orb pulses intensely right in the young lord's hand. The kid's boots touch the ground super lightly right in front of the crowd. The prodigy squad and the rest of the students stare at their classmate in dead silence. The air keeps a dark look, super satisfied with his brand new loot. Breaking the tension, a hologram of instructor Kathy pops up, announcing the drill is officially over. The message echoes across the lit-up swamp, while the rookies try to process everything that just went down. Super hyped, the professor tells everyone to pack it up and head straight back to the academy. Watching everything from afar through the magic sphere, instructor Kathy looks super intrigued by the chaos that just went down in the swamp. In the middle of the forest, Lucius holds the highly sought-after glowing orb tight while his squad gathers around him. Right then, a dark-haired upperclassman groans in anger, admitting he can't believe they got embarrassed by a team of freshmen. The pack of older students slowly rolls up on the prodigy squad with a seriously intimidating vibe. A pale guy mocks the whole thing, claiming the test was way too easy and that he would rather fight someone a lot stronger. The hooded buddy next to him just drops a short, muffled laugh, backing up the trash talk. Not giving much attention to the rival's ego, Lilia sighs and tries to change the subject ASAP. One of the older students points straight at the young lord in the dark, demanding answers. The redhead ignores the enemies and glares suspiciously at Lucius, asking who he really is behind all that ice-cold attitude. The MC keeps his eyes locked on the prize in his hands, totally laser-focused on his main goal. He mutters to himself, admiring the spiritual energy artifact he just scored. Checking the item out up close, the kid figures there is no mistake here, because the power packed in the object is insanely dense. Super determined, he figures that should be enough juice to wake up his battle circuit. Suddenly, a loud rustle in the bushes cuts off the heir's thoughts and makes the whole group look over. An older guy with a ponytail steps out of the shadows, hyping up the impressive strength the rookies just flexed. The veteran admits he got so spooked by the monster that he couldn't even move a muscle. Keeping a friendly tone, the dude claims he was super impressed and found it hard to believe they were just freshmen. The MC listens to the speech in silence, while the rival makes a point to glaze the prodigy leader's brute force. He extends the hype to the rest of the squad, swearing the other three also showed off crazy energy. Faking being humble, the guy says the older students might be weak, but their academy experience would be super handy for the rookies. The red-haired mage stares at the giant for a few seconds, sizing up that random offer of friendship. Right after, she acts super confident and ends up taking the peace treaty. The girl holds her hand out to the guy, ready to lock in the deal between the two squads. The man returns the gesture, putting on a super nice act to play the freshman. But in a totally cheap shot, he pulls his arm back and drops a brutal top-down strike right on the defenseless student. Lilia's eyes go wide in absolute shock, unable to process the random backstab with zero time to dodge. With the violent impact, the girl gets smashed into the ground, kicking up a thick cloud of dust and rubble. Hector and the hooded rookie stand there stunned, watching the smoke take over the battlefield. Banged up pretty bad, the noble spits blood, feeling the intense pain from the sneak attack she just tanked. The young lord reacts instantly, demanding to know what the heck the attacker thinks he is doing. Holding his injured teammate, Lucius glares at the enemy with pure ice and warns that the drill is already over. The veteran ignores the warning and mutters that the kid's level is straight up magnificent. Putting on a calculated look, the guy doubles down on the praise while staring the prodigy dead in the eye. He declares the rookie squad is the absolute best prey they could have asked for. The rival swordsman takes a step back, feeling the heavy aura that just took over the area. Flexing pure toxicity, the man talks down to the freshman with a massive superiority complex. He asks in a mocking way if the kids have ever heard the term swampers inside the academy. Shrinking in the corner, shy Noah repeats the word, completely confused by the weird question. The veteran explains the school kicks out the 125 worst students every year, but whoever scores above that gets to stay enrolled. With a bitter look, he claims the system is brutal because people like him will never score the divine blessing at the top. He adds that they also never scored low enough to get trashed by the school over the years. Radiating a creepy energy, the guy reveals that the students trapped in this endless loop are known as swampers. Showing zero fear, the MC asks what these hard-stuck veterans want out here. The enemy squad leader complains they have been stuck in this place way too long, trapped in the mid-ranks until they got old. Looking up at the night sky, the attacker sadly admits they even lost the right to carry their own last names. Hector points his sword and calls the veterans out for just being washed-up losers who can't accept reality. The group leader loses it, screaming that they lost everything and don't have many options to climb back up. Taken over by pure insanity, the man swears he is going to take back everything that was stolen from his life. He promises he won't stop for anything in the world, and summons a gigantic, glowing magic hourglass right behind him. The rookie swordsman's eyes go wide seeing that bizarre object, asking what on earth that thing is. The light shows the inside of the structure is packed with remains, spooking the freshman who instantly spots the extreme danger. Noah is absolutely terrified noticing the dark threat surrounding them. Suddenly, a purple magic circle lights up right under the hooded rookie's feet. Countless dark energy hands burst from the ground, grabbing the kid without giving him a second to pop a defense. The bald giant from the rival squad shakes with cruelty while controlling the trap from a distance. He throws his arms up, pushing the dark spell to lock down the most vulnerable member of the prodigy team. Spotting the cheap ambush, Hector spins around fast to try and save his squad mate. But the shadowy hands drag the shy kid straight into multiple dark dimensional portals on the ground. The magic swallows the prey fast, shutting down any chance of escape for now. Consumed by brutal rage, the enemy leader channels his own destructive power to keep the massacre going. A flood of stolen energy starts transferring straight into the core of the creepy hourglass. The two veterans cheer like maniacs, feeling the power rush into their bodies, screaming that the high feels amazing. The giant warns he is going to keep draining every ounce of the prey's vitality until there is literally nothing left. Caught in the curse, Noah struggles in pure panic, telling the attackers to stay away from him. The dark force chokes the rookie without mercy, sucking out every drop of his aura in the pitch black. Without thinking twice, Hector sprints at the threat to try and break the enemy's grip. The rival mage holds his hand out, trying to block the prodigy swordsman's lightning-fast rush. Fully locked onto the artifact, the young noble knows he has to smash it to save his buddy. With an acrobatic jump, the guy lunges with his blade ready to slice the relic right in half. He drops a violent diagonal slash, ripping through the air straight at the glass structure. But the strike's energy bounces off a heavy shield that blocks the hourglass from taking the hit. The freshman is shocked, clueless as to how his direct attack got totally cancelled out. Exploiting the rookie's dropped guard, the bald guy lands a heavy, brutal punch right on his face. The attacker grabs the young guy by the neck and explains that only the person who triggered the jar can actually touch it. With that, the swordsman's body is left dangling in the air, totally defenseless in the cruel veteran's hands. Watching the setup, Lucius quickly figures out the trap can absorb any kind of magic attack. On top of that, the cheap magic drains the life out of anyone who tries to lay a hand on the attackers directly. At that, the young lord drops his head, calculating a loophole in that absolute defense. Wasting no time, the MC rushes at insane speed straight at the enemy leader who is choking his teammate. The kid lands a clean physical kick right in the arrogant veteran's face. With the brutal impact of the hit, the man is sent flying backwards, instantly dropping the rookie swordsman. The attacker skids hard through the dirt, kicking up dust, while the freshman hits the floor trying to recover. Keeping his usual chill, the young prodigy notes that purely physical attacks work perfectly against that shield. On the other side of the clearing, the giant struggles to get up in the middle of the smoke. Walking slowly, the air stops right next to the weapon the swordsman dropped during the mess. Lilia tracks her teammates' moves, getting completely confused. The mage asks what he is trying to do, reminding him his specialty is strictly spellcasting. But the MC grips the sword hilt tight and shoots down the noble's claim. He lifts the heavy blade, testing the weapon's weight like it is the most natural thing in the world. Flashing a confident smirk, the kid reveals his original training was actually something else entirely. The two attackers stare at the rookie, totally blown away by the sudden switch-up in his vibe. Locked into a combat stance, Lucius finishes his sentence, claiming he was forged as a true swordsman. A dangerous glow lights up the guy's eyes as he holds a familiar weapon after so long. He perfectly adjusts his footwork, flexing flawless technique. The MC locks onto the enemy, ready to trigger the rush. Seeing this play out, the veterans look confused and mock the rookie's weapon choice. The pack leader finds it hilarious, sarcastically asking if the little mage wants to play melee fighter. Charging in full throttle, the giant promises he is going to snap the amateur's blade in half. But the young lord answers with a devastating combo of hyperfast slashes, completely swallowing the opponent's run. The veteran tanks the impact of the technique, getting knocked back while groaning in pain. Pissed off by the situation, the second attacker draws his own weapon to jump into the brawl. The prodigy kid shifts his cold focus straight to this new opponent. With a subtle flick, he tightens his grip on the hilt, dialing in the accuracy for the next strike. The enemy's eyes go wide, realizing way too late the danger coming his way. In the blink of an eye, Lucius dashes across the field and violently smashes into the opponent's guard. The force of the hit is so brutal it shreds the veteran's defense, launching him into the air. The attacker drops far away, kicking up dirt as he lands heavy on the forest floor. Watching the madness, Lilia is completely shook and mutters that this can't be real. Meanwhile, the MC stays perfectly chill in the middle of the clearing after neutralizing the target. With a stylish spin, he resets the blade, proving he has absolute mastery over the gear. Dumped in the dirt, the beaten enemy tries to figure out how the rookie pulled off a move like that without using any magic aura. The guy is terrified, asking where a basic student got that much martial skill. Pushing the advantage, the young lord jumps high, aiming for the leader guarding the dark artifact. Panicking at the fast incoming strike, the giant throws his hands up, telling the rookie to chill out. Cutting through the air, Lucius keeps a deadly glare, while the opponent tries to convince himself the kid is just a child with zero brute strength. Trying to lock down his panic, the veteran takes a deep breath to focus on the fight. He channels the stolen energy, making a purple light glow intensely in his hands. The MC keeps his ruthless descent going, ready to crush the opponent. In a fit of rage, the attacker fires a massive blast, ordering the brat to shake with fear. A colossal explosion of dark power swallows the ground, making the enemy call an early GG. Ripping the magic straight down the middle, the kid lands the blade directly on the giant's chest. However, the attack doesn't even tickle the veteran's hardened body, who mocks the rookie's lack of strength. The attacker drops a hysterical laugh, revealing that insane durability comes from all the stolen spiritual energy. Wasting no time, the guy charges like a literal tank, telling the freshman to brace himself. The enemy leader throws a heavy punch, forcing Lucius to use the sword to block the hit. The pressure from the physical strike is massive, demanding a lot from the MC's small body. The clash between the fist and the metal kicks up a strong shockwave that sweeps the clearing. Sizing up the situation, the young prodigy quickly realizes things are definitely not going well. Using his weight advantage, the veteran shoves the kid, forcing him to slide backward through the dirt. Another super heavy hit forces the air into a fully defensive stance. The guy realizes his current physical attacks just don't have enough juice to do any real damage. The opponent starts dropping a storm of crushing punches against the rookie's guard. Lucius thinks about how in his past life his body could tank the hit, but his current build is way too fragile without using energy. Using the physical opening, the giant shatters the swordsman's makeshift defense. With an aggressive roar, the enemy lands a clean punch that launches the MC far away. Forcing the push, the veteran charges again, screaming that the rookie has pissed him off enough. The kid is still getting dragged through the air from the violence of the last hit. Freaking out, Lilia runs holding the hooded teammate, fearing for the squad leader's life. With crazy skill, Lucius hits the brakes, sliding his boots across the dirt until he manages to stop. Kneeling in the earth, he hears the enemy laughing, admitting the swordplay caught him off guard. The giant mocks him, swearing that without a combat aura, the kid's sword is as harmless as a baby's attack. Ignoring the trash talk, the MC drops his head and grabs the energy orb from his pocket. The young guy brings the glowing crystal close to his chest, feeling a super familiar resonance. A green aura starts wrapping around his body, confirming the old battle circuit is answering the trigger. Amazed by the result, the guy holds out his hand, calculating what is going to happen if he applies that power. On the flip side, the enemy leader charges all his purple magic, declaring it is time for the final blow. Focused purely on his own leveling, the heir stares at the relic, remembering the exact old-school absorption method. The kid closes his eyes, letting the purified force flood his energy channels. The artifact glows ridiculously bright right in the prodigy's palm. A monumental storm of green light explodes out of Lucius's body, sweeping the whole forest with his newly awakened power. A monumental storm of green light explodes out of Lucius's body, sweeping the whole forest with his newly awakened power. The boy tilts his head up, feeling the energy flow through every single part of his being. That green flash pulses in the air, confirming the artifact absorption was an absolute success. Slowly opening his eyes, he processes the familiar vibe he hasn't felt in a very long time. An intense orange glow takes over his eyes, revealing his true nature. Gripping his own shirt, the MC smirks with satisfaction, realizing he finally managed to wake the skill up. He feels the presence of his old battle circuit manifesting perfectly inside this new body. Across the clearing, the veteran leader sweats cold, feeling the vibe of the fight totally flip. Taking a step forward, the young lord notes he had to force this technique open using the spiritual orb. With a tight grip on the sword, he calculates this combat aura will probably only last for one single strike. Caught totally off guard by the crushing aura, the attacker is completely mind-blown. A colossal red energy erupts from the kid, making the enemy panic under that ridiculous pressure, only to hear that everything is going to end in one hit. Dropping into a flawless fencing stance, the air channels all his strength into the blade while the ground literally cracks under his boots. The bald veteran freezes in place, shaking with terror facing the incoming threat. Staring the target down with a dark look, the prodigy states with total ice that finishing things in a single strike is his ultimate specialty. Panicking at the massive power flex, the enemy leader turns his back and tries to sprint toward his magic hourglass. He screams at himself, swearing he can't let that attack hit him no matter what. But Lucius gives zero room to run and draws his weapon in an insanely fast move. The giant pushes his legs to the max, trying to reach his absolute defense. Right then, the young lord fires a red vertical slash, tearing through the entire space of the clearing with devastating fury. The colossal impact hits the veteran dead in the back, launching his body violently through the... After the flawless strike, the MC lands smoothly, holding a solid posture. However, the burnout hits instantly, and he drops to his knees panting, confirming his limit really was just one attack, since the orb's stolen energy is tapping out. Looking at his own condition, the kid evaluates the situation super calmly. He realizes with awe that, despite being wiped out, the lock on his old strength channel is finally broken. Holding the blade, the guy figures the process is still incomplete, and he won't be able to use this aura without a boost from an external artifact. Even so, a smile of pure satisfaction pops up on the prodigy's face. Leaning on the sword, he looks up totally determined, knowing exactly what path to take to keep leveling up. Suddenly, a panting voice calls his name, breaking the silence of the wrecked forest. Lilia runs up to her teammate out of breath, completely speechless after what she just watched. Still shook, the redhead asks what kind of ridiculous power he just used. The girl checks out the area, blown away by the total destruction of the threat that was draining the students. Shy Noah walks up asking if the squad leader is okay, getting a chill reply that everything is all good. Right after, the young swordsman steps out of the shadows, calling the MC by his last name. Lucius and the hooded kid turn their attention to their teammate walking up. Looking super serious, Hector states that the way the mage held that weapon is classic for someone who grinded for decades. Staring the rookie down with a sharp look, the prodigy demands to know who the master was that taught him to fight like that. The vibe gets super tense between the two nobles under the moonlight in the middle of the quiet clearing. The young lord holds eye contact with his teammate, showing zero intimidation at the aggressive question. Casually turning his back, he prefers to keep his dark past a total mystery. The next day, the scene shifts to the sunny courtyards of the academy, where the squad is celebrating their rank-ups on the global leaderboard. Walking together across campus, they agree the mission was a huge W, since everyone managed to bag the valuable energy orbs. Full of herself, Lilia flashes a proud smile and announces she is never losing to the hooded rookie again, flexing her new 26th place ranking in the school. Hiding in his hood, Noah answers shyly that he is going to let his friend enjoy this win for now, currently sitting in 29th place. Right behind them, the Arclight Heir walks in dead silence, holding the 25th spot in the academy. Hector walks faster, super frustrated that he couldn't drag the truth out of his teammate last night. While the redhead jokes around with the crew, the MC just leads the walk down the hall, totally ignoring the chatter. Being the strongest rookie, Lucius flexes his 19th place rank and thinks over the success of their latest mission. He remembers the feeling of the flawless strike, realizing his current power reserves can't handle holding the technique on his own. With a calculated smirk, the young guy decides his obvious next move is to score a massive boost to his spiritual energy capacity. The group keeps walking until they hit a huge, crowded hall in the facility. The students' attention gets hooked by a giant magic board hyping up the Grand Imperial Betting Tournament. Standing in front of the glowing screen, the squad leader asks what the deal is with this event. Lilia reads the poster, super surprised that a high-tier tournament like that is being advertised in. Right then, a mystery blonde girl pops up right behind the air and taps his shoulder, backing up the mage's reading. Leaning in close, the stranger flirtatiously asks if they are interested, making the redhead jump out of her skin. With a sneaky look, the upperclassman jokes that she senses some hard eyes and praises the squad's brutal performance in yesterday's test. The young lord keeps eye contact without falling for the charm, while she thanks him for wrecking those annoying old guys for her. The girl steps back doing a hype spin, quickly guessing the rookie is super curious about the tournament on the big screen. Pointing at the rules, she explains it is a massive event backed by the Empire itself, pulling in heavy hitters from all over. Nearby, a freshman overhears and nervously brings up the shady reputation of this competition. His buddy agrees, remembering the rumors that the tournament is just a freak show for rich nobles to bet cash on, and people always end up losing their lives. Popping out of nowhere, the blonde gets close to the two gossiping guys, confirming those dark rumors are 100% true. Flashing a wicked smile, she warns the wimpy boys that there is one super important detail to this whole thing. The upperclassman drops a creepy vibe to reveal that the combat arena for this event has a very special architectural setup. She explains that all the magic fired off by the fighters during the brutal matches ends up pooling into the stage floor and is naturally absorbed by whoever is left standing. The girl breaks down that as the rounds go on, the power concentration in the arena spikes massively, rewarding the survivors. Throwing her arms open with hype, she promises that the longer someone survives in there, the bigger the permanent boost to their base magic reserves. Hearing this golden intel, the MC's eyes go wide, realizing this is the perfect shot he has been looking for. The student winks and mentions that since it is an off-campus event, it doesn't mess with their grades, making it highly recommended for young guys wanting to test their real limits. Lilia turns her back instantly, completely losing interest, arguing her family would never okay getting involved in an illegal betting ring, and tells the squad it is time to leave. Ignoring his friend, Lucius stays behind, doing the math on the potential of that magic arena that stacks up so much free energy. A super confident smile hits his face as he calculates that if he sweeps every round, he will bag a colossal amount of spiritual power. Locked in on joining this crazy setup, he turns and calls out to the blonde upperclassman who is already walking away. The girl stops walking and looks back, pretty surprised by the prodigy's direct approach. Ignoring his buddy, Lucius asks straight up where he needs to drop off the sign-up form. Lilia gets furious and asks if he lost his mind, reminding him the event does 0 for their academy grades. The blonde veteran floats away looking super chill. She smiles and says she will personally make sure the paperwork gets handed to the kid. Lilia and Noah are totally confused by the girl's sketchy vibe. Right then, the stranger grabs the prodigy's attention to drop one last major heads-up. Getting close to the MC, she warns that the students ranked higher than him are also going to jump into that dangerous event. The young girl finally turns her back and says goodbye, wishing the rookie good luck in the tournament. With that confirmed, the young lord flashes a confident look, hyper-focused on his main goal of securing more power. Soon after, the Grand Imperial betting tournament kicks off with the arena absolutely packed with filthy rich nobles. An eccentric announcer in a purple suit takes the stage to hype up the crowd. He explains the rules are basic, just bet on your favorite fighter to secure the back. The host warns that the payouts drop as the fighters push deeper into the rounds. Super hyped, he announces that whoever drops cash early on has the best shot at taking home the jackpot. Up in the stands, the nobles gossip about a 12-year-old kid joining the roster. They mock the kid, thinking it is just a cheap gimmick not worth their money. Meanwhile, Lucius waits chill at the arena entrance, watching all the crazy hustle outside. He feels the colossal amount of spiritual energy flowing through the place, acknowledging the high-tier level of this Empire-backed event. Several veteran fighters flex heavy auras in the hallways, proving the challenge won't be a walk in the park. Sizing up the competition, the MC notices the 3 elite academy students haven't shown up yet. Grabbing the crowd's attention, the host announces the immediate start of the night's first matchup. The magic screens flash the faces of the 2 fighters, showing Lucius matched up against a ridiculously jacked warrior. The announcer makes sure to hype up the insane size difference between the two to pump up the bets. He introduces the veteran Garzas from the Northern Escort Squad, facing off against the young prodigy repping the academy. Watching from the VIP sections, Hector tells Lilia and Noah that the opponent belongs to one of the absolute strongest military units in the Empire. A white-haired noble praises the young swordsman's intel, who just nods, keeping a distant vibe. Other gamblers dump cash on the older fighter, considering this match a total free win. A rain of gold coins floods the board while the announcer yells that the battle is about to start. Backstage, other fighters laugh at the whole setup, telling the merc to go easy on the helpless kid. The announcer explains the fighter's spiritual energy will charge up the magic light pillars, signaling the start as soon as they max out. The northern warrior flashes a twisted smirk and readies his heavy axe for the brawl. Not sweating the threat at all, the young lord waits for his turn, radiating absolute ice. The host throws his hand up dramatically, asking if both fighters are ready to go. The second the magic pillars overflow with power, the start signal echoes through the whole arena. Taking the opening, the merc charges in savage, cursing at the rookie, ready to crush him on the first hit. Up in the stands, the swordsman heir is impressed, noticing the giant has a crazy fast rush speed. The merc swings the axe down with everything he has got, screaming for the kid to get out of his way in a dirt explosion. Lucius dodges the lethal hit without breaking a sweat, muttering bored about the enemy's weapon choice. With a lightning-fast move, the MC holds his hand out, aiming straight at the opponent's exposed chest. The warrior's eyes go wide in total panic, realizing he walked right into a fatal trap. The rookie fires a massive blast of pure spiritual energy at point-blank range. The blue attack hits the giant dead-on, making him scream in pain from the devastating impact. The magic tears through the arena air, violently launching the veteran's heavy body far away. The heir pulls his hand back, keeping a sharp and ruthless glare after dropping the perfect hit. Unable to block it, the warrior faceplants into the floor, completely knocked out cold. The noble crowd goes into absolute shock, plunging the arena into dead silence after the crowd favorite got instantly folded. Even the event host loses his words, sweating cold seeing that monstrous flex of power. Stuttering into the mic, the announcer finally breaks the silence, declaring the freshman as the grand winner of the match. The gamblers hit full panic mode, furious they just lost fortunes on a massive upset right in round 1. Catching his breath, the announcer screams with hype, declaring the arrival of a true prodigy who ended the whole thing in a single strike. Lilia lets out a sigh of relief, collapsing onto the table. Annoyed, Hector tells her to stop trashing their VIP booth. The entire crowd wonders who the heck this kid is, while the winner is bathed in the light from the ring's magic pillar. The MC clenches his fist and absorbs all that purified energy straight into his body. Even with the power up, he does the math in his head and realizes it still isn't enough juice to activate his battle circuit. Round 2 kicks off against a new challenger, but the young lord crushes the guy just as easily as the first one. The announcer loses his mind, screaming into the mic about another unbelievable knockout from just one single strike. Desperate over their losses, the nobles switch sides and start dumping all their coins on the rookie. A third fighter tries to rush in full throttle, but gets swept away by a destructive blast right through the rain of cash. The host hypes up the third back-to-back win, locking the 12-year-old kid in as the absolute monster of the tournament. The heir stays isolated in the center of the stage, radiating a dark aura and being labeled as untouchable. Up in the stands, the blonde veteran cheers hysterically for the rookie, making her squadmates tell her to shut her mouth. The white-haired noble watches the massacre in silence, showing a dangerous interest in the kid's skill set. Sweeping more fights, the MC drains the rest of the arena's energy, but curses the fact that he still needs more power. Suddenly, the massive doors of the main hall smash open with a violent crash, stopping the whole event. Feeling a crushing spiritual pressure flood the room, the prodigy looks up, totally locked onto the new threat. A dark, boss-level silhouette walks with heavy steps toward the lit-up center of the gym. A colossal explosion of purple lightning shakes the building's walls, suffocating everyone there with ridiculous force. The event host starts sweating cold with terror, stuttering that nobody gave him a heads-up about this. The guy desperately realizes a super high-profile VIP just crashed the competition. Feeling the weight of that monstrous aura, the white-haired noble and his guards instantly stand up out of respect. Down in the combat ring, Lucius keeps a straight face, waiting to see who the newcomer actually is. A heavy boot and a premium cape step firmly onto the main arena floor. The young lord's eyes widen slightly as he instantly recognizes that super familiar presence. Swallowed by uncontrollable rage, the kid grips his own fist so hard he almost rips his glove. The MC tilts his head up to stare down the giant figure posting up on the highest balcony in the building. The newcomer is none other than Lord Atlas, flexing red eyes and a vibe of pure tyranny. Consumed by deep hatred from his past life, the heir channels his magic and mutters the traitor's name. The arrogant patriarch looks down at the tiny competitor, putting a massive power gap on full display between them. A heavy tension takes over the room as the kid's deadly glare locks onto his former master's total disrespect.